Good morning, and thank you for joining Mornings with Nate. This is a show where we encourage two-way talk and viewer participation. So I provided a link on the We website, not website, but the We fan page. So custom saying website instead of fan page, a Facebook page actually, more descriptively. And if you click on that link, then you will go into my green room and we will bring you into the broadcast and we'll be able to kind of two-way talk about the issues that we're discussing or issues that you might like to discuss. I put up that picture today to kind of open the broadcast. That's kind of me in my younger days, the taller person. The person that is in the middle is Stevie Wonder. And the person who is on the far left, depending on how you look at it. I got so many monitors turned so many different ways here. I don't know left from right. Between looking at this and looking at that, I kind of don't know left from right. But I've got that person on the far left. I need to complete that thought. Is Clarence Du Burns. And Clarence Du Burns is the first black mayor of Baltimore, Maryland, where I'm broadcasting from. I always like to say that I know a lot, or what's the saying again? That I know a lot because I've seen a lot. That commercial that from State Farm, I think he says that. And I've always liked that little catchy saying because in a nutshell, that is what I kind of lean on and kind of want to share. That I know a lot because I've seen a lot. Getting a little older, been through a bunch of things. Quite frankly, different times in my life, I was the youngest person to do this and that. So I've seen a lot. That picture, actually, of the three of us was when Stevie Wonder came to town for, I think, a concert. He visited City Hall, and the mayor, Du was actually spelled D-U. And he's a very interesting guy. He actually got that name Du by the community. The community gave him that name because he was the person that you went to get things done. In a community, if you had lost your job unfairly and you wanted someone to address it, you went to Du. And he kind of evolved into just being called that. His name is Clarence Burns, but everyone knows him by Du. And he was the first African American who was president of city council, and then he became the first African American mayor of Baltimore. Now, what's my role? My role when he ran for election is that I was his treasurer. So I know a little bit about politics from a lot of different angles, but a lot of times because my background is so much to do with money and so much to do with business, people like to involve me as the treasurer or the person who's in charge of money. So I've had a number of opportunities to be involved in politics in different ways, heads of finance committees, serving on committees, organizing fundraising trees from all the way from the President of the United States all down to council people and others. In fact, there was an article that was written in the Washington Post years ago, talking about some of what I did in raising money. I used to have a skybox over at Oriole Stadium, and I would invite people in when I was raising money to be guests in my skybox and raise money for various politicians. That particular article was about the governor. At that time, who I was raising money for, Paris Glendening, the person who ultimately became governor. But, I threw that picture up there about with Du and I, because I was thinking a lot about him. There are certainly people in your life that you meet and you don't know that they're going to have a real dramatic effect on your life. At that time, when I was serving as treasurer for him, running for election, I was very busy in getting the Chapman Company off the ground, the company which you know about that ultimately I took public. But we were just getting it off the ground back in those days. And as you can see, I had a little bit more hair than I have today in that particular picture. But we were just getting the Chapman Company really off the ground. I first met Du, just to give you some history of kind of how politics works. My major in college was economics and political science, and I minored in accounting. So, a lot of folks, look at that and say, boy, that's kind of boring, if you're not into it. But I was into it. I like economics and I like political science. I like accounting. So I was able to get all three, combined. I completed my graduation requirements in college in 2.5 years. I was president of student government the last year, a lot of stuff like that. People know me and know that. But I know this broadcast is going out to a lot of people all over the country who may not be as familiar with me. But I always like to throw out a couple of things just to kind of establish my bona fides as to why I'm here. I'm looking at my phone because a lot of times some of your comments come up on the phone. If you have comments, they'll come up here. As opposed to other places that I could look at and see. So far, I've got Earl Bravo is watching. Let me cut it down here. Okay, good. Muting that. So certainly Earl, who was with me at the time at the Chapman Company, would probably remember that picture and maybe even remember when I looked like that. I was thinking about, I was kind of talking about the whole, undergraduate thing of major in economics and political science, minor in accounting. And what happened was that as a part of my political science major, one of the courses that I was very interested in was a 4-credit internship that they had out in Annapolis, Maryland, that you could actually intern with a politician and get 4 credits and perhaps even get paid. So I was very interested in that course. And so I took it, but you had to make your own arrangements. And I, at that time, arranged to work for State Senator Robert Douglas. And he was one of the more powerful state senators that were out there in Annapolis. And he was roommates out there with another very powerful state senator we had here they used to call him Soft Shoes Harry McGurk. And between Harry McGurk and Bob Douglas, I got to know everybody in Annapolis. I used to kind of run errands and do things when I was in college for them, and just got to know everybody out there. And I got really enmeshed in politics, and I got to know a bunch of pretty well-known politicians at a young age. I got to know some people who would become powerful at a young age when they were young. So I got to just know a lot of people. So as a part of that, Bob Douglas was a member of what they call the East Baltimore Democratic Organization. Some call it the East Baltimore Democratic Coalition. And the president of the East Baltimore Democratic Coalition was Clarence Dew Burns. Dew was primarily an East Baltimore guy, and he was known for his reputation was built on the east side of Baltimore. And so that was kind of the first time that I met him. I went to one of the meetings, and I met him at the meeting along with a lot of other elected officials, local officials. A lot of people remember me as that young kid, who was at the meetings with Bob, or who used to come. He was in college at the time, so I kind of go back with a lot of people. And it's interesting to me now, as I've gotten older, that I've gotten to know their children. Because many of the elected officials at the time who were older, their kids ran for their spots when they retired. And so their kids are now the people in power. So, which is very interesting to me. I'm no longer a kid to them, but I'm kind of an older person. I always think of myself as a tweener. A lot of my friends are older people, but I was kind of always the younger person in the room. So people that are younger than me kind of look at me as a senior, not as a young kid, the way their parents looked at me, because I've now gotten older. It's kind of an interesting thing, life kind of transition thing. Well, anyway, let's see here. We're laughing. Earl's got, I'm a junkyard dog. That's right. I'm a junkyard dog now. I'm out here, drinking water from the ground and all. Just, take some pieces and make something out of it. A junkyard dog. That's right. But the good thing is you kind of remember all the roads, all the things that you've been through. So, anyway, I stayed in touch with a lot of people. I certainly stayed in touch with Dew, who was at the time, I think he was vice president of the council. There was another guy, not to bore some of you out there who are around the country with this local politics stuff, but there was another guy who was president of the city council who actually taught me in college. His name was Walter Olinsky, and he got into a little difficulty. I had to resign from office, and Dew became president of the council, and then he ran citywide and was elected to it. president of the city council. And when the mayor, William Donald Schaefer here became governor, Dew, as president of the city council, became the first African-American mayor of the city of Baltimore. So he approached me. And he said that, Nate, I'd like you to be my treasurer, just to kind of make a long story short in the election campaign. And I tried to convince him to select somebody else because I thought he needed someone who had, at the time, better name recognition. And I knew how the game worked, that you need someone who had a following and who could bring a constituency, which I couldn't do. What you wanted to do is to get another politician, maybe to serve as your treasurer in name only, because I was more than willing to do the work, but I just didn't think I should be the guy whose name that was out there. And where you could select someone who's the head of a labor union, and you might bring all his people that were part of the labor union. And that was kind of the way the game would work. But he said, no, I want to have you. I want you to serve as my treasurer. And so when I couldn't convince him otherwise, to make a long story short, that is what I did. I became treasurer for the city, the mayor of the city of Baltimore in a citywide election campaign, something which was eventful, exciting, that I will never forget, that changed my life and being a part of it, and probably all of the people who were helpful. I certainly had my company and people helping me process checks and process in-kind contributions and get the reports in on time. And I'm glad to say that there was nothing that ever went wrong with any of the political filings. They were never questioned in any way. I was quite proud of that. But it was also something I swore I would never do again. So the kind of effort that goes into processing thousands of checks and thousands of transactions, and the stress of getting those reports in and knowing they're going to be looked over by reporters and political competitors and all of that, to making sure they're 100% right. So I did not want to be an embarrassment. They have some story that says his campaign reports were wrong, because they weren't going to blame it on me. They were going to blame it on him. So I didn't want that to ever happen. And it never did. So I was very thankful for that. But because of what happened, Dew Burns actually lost that race. And he lost to a young Kurt Smoke. And that is another part of the story. I'm writing a book, and the book is called The Chapman Company Story. And within that book, I talk a little bit about this time and what happened, the aftermath of that, and kind of my rise to power after that, and how it happened, how I rose, what happened during the rise, and then how I learned a lot about politics on a statewide level. And because I went beyond Baltimore City in terms of my so-called rise, and what happens on a national level, how I got in with the President of the United States and what it meant to be able to dine with him, different things like that. So if you're interested in the book when it comes out, you can look for, I've got a little website where you can sign up for it called the Chapman, THE Chapman, CHAPMAN company. Look, we've got Bashenta Pick, who's watching. Please excuse me if I mispronounce your name a little bit. Thank you for coming in. But I was just mentioning that my book, The Chapman Company Story.com, is coming out. And if you're interested in it, there's a website that we have. You can just go put your email in. And so if you're interested in, and then that, I'll make sure that you are aware when it actually gets published and is available. That is the Chapman, CHAPMAN Company Story, all out, ChapmanCompanyStory.com. So when I saw this picture, and it kind of reminded me of the old days of when I was a city campaign treasurer, in the old days of working with Dew Burns. One of the things that was kind of interesting to me when I met Stevie Wonder is how tall he is. Now, I'm 6'6'1", and Stevie Wonder's taller than me. So it's not as apparent in this picture, because you normally see Stevie Wonder, because he's blind, sitting down at the piano or sitting down doing something. But Stevie Wonder is kind of tall, which was kind of surprising to me. So I'll take this picture off and just kind of get into what we usually get into. It's been just an interesting morning for me already. A lot of times I talk about what happened between the last broadcast because, I live stream a lot. For instance, this morning, I really was having a little trouble sleeping because there's a lot that's on my mind and, things I want to do and kind of get things done. So I had a little trouble sleeping. I left here last night at a decent hour. Normally I don't leave until 8. But that was, I left here a little earlier than that. Tonight or last night. So I was able to go out to dinner with my girlfriend and we went out. But then I don't think I actually fell asleep until 9 o'clock or somewhere around there. And so I'm back up at 1:30 in the morning. And knowing full well that in order to get in here and do my thing and do what I do, normally I'm up at about 3:15. And so I'm thinking, oh boy, actually my mind was happening. And that's kind of the entrepreneurial vein of existence. If you look at it that way, I don't, but some people do. That you always got thoughts. You always got things that are rolling in your mind. You always got things you're trying to resolve. And sometimes it can lead to a little bit of restless sleep. And you wake up in the middle of the night just thinking. And the first thing you want to do is, oh man, I want to check this out. And so I grab my phone and I try to look at something, knowing full well I need to put that phone down and kind of get a couple more hours before I got to be back up here at 3:15. You guys have heard my schedule, up at 3:15, out the door, and try to be out the door by 4:15. To drive on the Beltway to get here to the studio, be here by 5 so I can get things up and rolling, so I can be ready for you all at 6. That's kind of my schedule. And then on the way this morning, just before I get into that, I kind of worked a little bit and I knew, boy, I need to have the happy thought or something so I could get to sleep, because I've got to get back up soon. And then when I get back up, I'm up for good. So I guess I got back to sleep about something after 2. And then up again, 3:15, I was up. And it seemed so quickly. It seemed like at the time happening so quick that, I looked at my phone. Oh, gee, it is indeed 3:15. Actually, what I did was I set my alarm on my phone because I know it is certainly entirely possible, given that I've only had about 4 sleep, that I might just sleep through 3:15. It's possible, but it didn't happen. I actually got up a little bit before 3:15. Might as well get up like 3:12, something like that, and cut the alarm off and get rolling. So that's what I did. I got up, got rolling. Everything's going real smoothly. Real happy about that. And so I'm driving down the road. And as many of you know, I'm trying to lose a few pounds. So I do bring in my food that I'm going to have for lunch. And sometimes, I'll eat a little bit of that for breakfast, but what I had for lunch yesterday, I didn't eat it all. And so I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to finish it off today. But what I had for lunch yesterday was shrimp Alfredo with the pasta and all that. And that kind of takes me through. I really don't need to eat again today, eat again at all if I've had something like that at lunch. But it's not quite what I wanted for breakfast. Yeah. So, because there was a little bit left and I said, well, maybe I'll finish it off for lunch today. But I really didn't want it for breakfast. So I'm thinking, oh boy, I'm actually now, because it took me a little extra time, believe it or not, getting out the door. So I'm running just a few minutes behind. Michael Thomas, I see you're out there. Also, I see you know Mr. Bravo. I see, speaking of Mr. Earl, hey, glad to see you. So, but, when I discovered, I drive by, and you heard me talk about it. I drive by these McDonald's all the time, and I'm wondering, boy, if there was only one, and if I'm on my schedule, I could stop by this diner and get a little something to eat to bring in here, actually eat it here, and keep it moving. But just as I was driving by this particular McDonald's, I saw in the corner of my eye it seemed like a small sign, and it said, open. And then I looked over, and I saw what appeared to be a car in the drive-thru. So immediately, there's not much traffic when I'm on the road early in the morning. I threw a U-turn right around. I'm going in. And sure enough, all this time that I've driven by that McDonald's, it is a 24-hour McDonald's. And the driveway is 24 hours. I just didn't know it all this time. I'm going kind of beyond where I have to go to get to the diner and all that kind of stuff. So I stopped it. I pulled right in there. I threw the U-turn. I pulled right in there. I really just wanted something light, like some oatmeal. And a friend of mine, he's real big on McDonald's oatmeal. I was thinking about him. I said, okay, I'm going to get some oatmeal. So I pull up to the driving window, and sure enough, they're open. And I, order, give me some oatmeal. But I just had to say it out of force of habit, and a sausage and egg McGriddle. It's like one of the most fattening things they have. So, okay. I pull up. I pay the woman. She gives me the bag, and I pull off. So I'm thinking I'm going to take a couple of bites of the sausage and egg McGriddle on the way to work while I'm driving down the road. That'll help me kill some time, eat while I'm driving, and I'll hope it. And so I reach in the bag. No sausage, egg McGriddle. The oatmeal is there, but no sausage, egg McGriddle. So you know what I did? Threw another U-turn right into the middle of the road. Now I'm thinking, I'm losing time. And I drive up to the window, and a woman, she's got the sandwich in the bag waiting for me. She said, "Oh, you drove off. I tried to call you." I'm thinking, you put it all in one bag. Why give me two bags? So she gave me the bag, and all's well that ends well. I was able to eat a little bit in the car, get here, and kind of get myself together. And the technology kind of worked this morning smoothly, because sometimes that's not the case, as you've heard me say in the past. And here I am, boom, and ready to do my thing. So, each day, what I try to do, as you know, we have a two-way talk format in this particular show. Now, there are other shows that I do, that I host, and other shows in the future that I will host, that we're creating. At 5 o'clock, as you know, I do Chapman Means Business, where I talk about business issues. I profile entrepreneurs. So you'll see that I either always guest that periodically come into the show. I like, since this is a two-way talk format, I always invite people to join me. There's a link that's out there on the page that we operate under. Some of you are seeing this broadcast through pages that I have some affiliation with, but the core of the broadcast is coming in under a Facebook page called The We. The We is the entity under which all the broadcasts happen. And you can search for that. If you happen to be on like the Nathan Chapman page or other pages that are out there seeing the broadcast, if you come in under The We, you do a Facebook search for that, that's THEWE 123. So The We 123. You'll come to you'll see there's a link there that you can click on, and you can join the broadcast. Or if you'd like to text me, the way I'm certainly happy that some of these folks here, I see Daryl Chapman is watching. If you'd like to text me a comment, thanks, Daryl, for getting up and watching. If you'd like to text me a comment, please feel free. Happy to respond to it. And come on in. This is a two-way talk format. This is a two-way talk show. We want you all to be a part of what we're doing. This is kind of an expansion of the old days in which I used to do two-way talk radio. You guys still see a lot of sports channels do the thing. You can call in, make a comment. Well, we've taken it in social media a whole nother step. If you click on that link, your face will appear and download the app. You got to download the app. Your face will appear in my green room. And I always tell people there are only 3 rules that I have as to getting you out of the green room into the broadcast, and you'll see the screen split and you'll be in the broadcast. Right now there are thousands of people watching us. At least I don't know if they're actually watching us. At least they have the choice to watch us. Because you know how it is. The whole thing goes out, the whole little announcement goes out, and then you have the choice of clicking on it and watching. So how many others who people up at 6 a.m. may be watching this, but then they'll be watching both you and I if you click that link. So the only 3 rules that I have is Daisy's up. Hey, good morning, Daisy. Good to see you. I see you've got something. Here we go. Little comment. Good morning. Good morning. There are only 3 rules that we have, and I talk about it every show. One, you can't go on the show talking any crazy terrorism stuff or all that kind of stuff. If you do, click, and you'll be gone. And secondly, you can't, if I look in the green room and you're in the green room giving me the finger or, some other sign that's not positive, then I probably won't bring you into the broadcast because I don't consider that a good sign. And then the last thing, if you're doing, good. Barney's here. Nigeria's in the house. Here, I'm going to put that up because Barney was on the show not that long ago. And Paulette Chapman is joining us and watching us. Good morning, Paulette. Barney is Nigeria in the house. And just so you all know what that means is that he is in Nigeria and he's coming in. He was actually a guest on the show. Barney is a famous educator and is running a school there in Nigeria where he's doing a tremendous amount of good. And he's got a tremendous story, kind of his path to Nigeria, his path in education, and the broadcasts are still out on Facebook. So if you like to see if you look for some of the older broadcasts, you'll see that story. So welcome, Barney. Glad to have you in from Nigeria, and Pauline. It's great to have you on board as well. So as I said, as long as you and guys, heck, Barney, if you're out there, you want to join me again and talk some more, click on that link, and we'll choose some more news or whatever's happening. Because I'd be interested in what people are thinking about Trump being over in the Davos conference. I'm going to talk a little bit about it. My routine in the morning also is just scanning every news service to get some type of news articles, news information that I think might be worthy of talking about. And as I said, I've grown to have tremendous respect for the people like Morning Joe and CNN with Chris Cuomo, just finding news. And I see why those guys talk about the same thing every 15 minutes, because quite frankly, there's limited news, and of the news that's out there, most of it's about Trump. So you're almost forced to talk about Trump per se, unless you can get that international perspective from people who are outside the United States. But if you want to join the broadcast, just feel free to click on that link, and we'll see what you have to say or what you think about a particular issue, and would be happy to have you. But if you don't feel like doing that, you can also do what some of our listeners, viewers are doing today, which is send us a comment and perhaps about what is going on in the world, and that would be helpful as well. The first news story I'm going to talk about that I found that I thought was kind of interesting is that Trump is saying he's willing to speak under oath to Mueller, the prosecutor Mueller, in the investigation of the Russian probe. I think he's out of his mind, personally, Trump, if he's willing to do that, because there's no upside to it. I know he's saying I'm innocent and I don't have anything to hide or anything like that. But it is easy to get tripped up by prosecutors and to end up in a situation coming out of a meeting with prosecutors that you didn't have before you went in meeting with prosecutors. And I'm not saying you shouldn't cooperate with law enforcement officials. I believe in that 100%. But I also believe that you should not go overboard or have any type of false bravado about the whole process, because the criminal process is a very serious process. And that's what they're looking at with Mueller. They're looking at the criminal process. So you want to make sure you stay within the bounds of your rights and listen to your attorneys. If your attorneys say to go, or that you must go because there's the debate of if they wanted him to testify, if he can say no, and that would create a constitutional crisis if they ask him to come in and he says, no, I don't want to do that. You indirectly work for me. You don't tell me what to do. You can't bring me in. I bring you in and fire you, which he has the power to do. So it would create a constitutional crisis. But if he does not have to go before Mueller in the investigation of what's happening over in Russia, my advice to him is to not do it. Now, again, I'm only doing that because I believe not cooperating with law enforcement officers. I think you should definitely cooperate with law enforcement officers. I mean, in fact, you have to. It's a crime not to. So definitely do that. And but at the same time, I was in the investment business. And in the investment business, I manage a lot of different types of money. And a lot of the money that I manage, I shouldn't say a lot because, as a percentage basis, it wasn't that much. But I started off the broadcast just talking a little bit about a little political history and some of the things with the picture that I started off the broadcast with, just talking about a little political power, not political power, but just political history that I have. So I, as an investment bank, I knew a lot of politicians. So a lot of politicians, when they were ready to invest money, they came to me. And that's politicians all over the country. So some guy who's a senator, or maybe he's in the House of Delegates or something like that, he wants to open up an IRA or any type of investment account. He wants some investment advice. Who do I know? well, I know Nate, let me go down his company. I'm going to open up an account. And I'm happy to do it because I know too many, broke politicians. And I don't like my friends to end up that way. And so I'm going to give you my best advice. And I'm going to tell you, if you want to take the money and go buy a watch or something, I'm going to tell you not to do that, that you should leave this money here and let it grow and so on and so forth, because I want you to have money when you retire and to be all right. So a lot of guys grew to trust me, and I just got increasingly money from mayors and all kinds of elected officials that I had that I would manage their money. Now, what comes with that? Well, if you manage money for people like politicians, sooner or later, there's going to be a politician who's going to be put under investigation. And when a politician is put under investigation, one of the first places they want to look into is his money. And trying to figure out if the guy's been taking bribes or if he's got some unusual amount of money coming in from some source and this, that, and the other. So what they do is they subpoena his accounts. They basically any bank account or investment account he may have, you get a little subpoena, you're supposed to give them the records, and you do. Because, of course, as the investment bank, nothing to hide. I don't have anything to hide, or I'm certainly not going to hide anything on behalf of anybody. So, here's his records. And then if they want to take a step beyond that, what the FBI will do is come in and personally talk to you. And at first, it was kind of a little jarring. The first time around that I experienced that where, my secretary, she says, Mr. Chapman, you have a visitor. Who is it? It's FBI agent so-and-so. Thinking, that's unusual. But quite frankly, I was in business 20 years. So over a 20-year period, I don't know how many FBI agents I've talked to because they were investigating politicians and they wanted to know about their money. They come in and I can't tell you very much. I can only tell you what we invested. Where it came from, I do not know. It comes to the door, puts it in the account, and I tell you when to buy IBM. That's what I do. So my part of it is kind of modest. But even that, I want to make sure that I am 100% accurate when the FBI agent comes to the door. So again, talking to Trump, talking to Miller is just no joke. The other part of it is some of these guys, the investigation goes beyond just simply the FBI walking through your door because you happen to have this guy's investment account. Sometimes these guys, they're looking to prosecute. Various politicians, they're looking to prosecute. And so then my participation goes to another level where they may say, well, Nate, there's a private grand jury that's meeting, that's investigating this guy, and we'd like you to appear as a witness. Thinking, now I got to go get me a lawyer because I want to make sure that I do everything the right way. I'm not being investigated, but, this guy is. And so, the whole thing of going down and, testifying before the grand jury, they ask you the same questions they ask you in the office, but you can't have your lawyer in the room. It's a lot of stuff. So bottom line, I always say I know a lot because I've seen a lot. That commercial you hear me talking about. And what I know about this process, if I was Trump, I would not be, pumping my chest. I'll speak to, Miller, anytime he wants. If he wants to talk now, I'll talk to him. He wants to meet me on the corner, I'll meet him on the corner. This process is no joke. And having experienced it and seeing what they do, because they always ask you questions toward an objective. They're not asking you to prove a guy's a nice guy. That's not their objective. They're trying to get a guy, get the facts so they can convict somebody. So I don't think that's a smart thing. What do you guys out there think? Any thoughts on that? Do you think that that Trump should just jump up and say, Miller, if you want to talk to me right now, stop by my office. I'll talk to you in a second. Or that, he should stay within his rights, probably. And if it's within his legal rights not to, that he shouldn't. But also that puts a bad look on it. Why wouldn't you testify? Why wouldn't you talk to the man if you don't have anything to hide? Well, what do you guys think? Any thoughts out there? Anyone who wants to debate me on that or talk to me who got their own experiences, click on that link and we'll bring you into the two-way talk format and we'll continue to talk a little bit about that. And we'll come back to the subject because I got a few other items here on the news that I'm going to talk about and give you at least my perspective based on my history and what I would do. And I'm going to try to deal with all my Trump stories right away. And so we'll get our Trump stuff out of the way. And he's so much of the news. Right now he's over in Switzerland, over in Davos. And what they're saying is that because he came out with that S-hole comment about certain countries, certain of those countries are going to be in Davos. They're saying that when he stands up to give his speech, that the leaders of those countries that are in Davos, that they're going to walk out. That he may be giving a speech to a fairly empty room because there are going to be people who are going to walk out because of that S-hole comment. And there are going to be people, because, it directly affects them because it's their country he's talking about. And then there are going to be people who are in sympathy with those people who are going to walk out when he gives his speech. I just have never really heard of anything like that. I don't recall other leaders in other parts of the world who people may have disagreed with, that when they spoke, that the leaders in the room walked out. I mean, I'm sure it's happened, but maybe because it's Trump and he's such a much bigger personality that people are making an even bigger deal about what he said than what they would if another leader said it. And that makes sense. So if you're a leader of a small country and you use the S-hole comment, the S comment, then it's not quite as big a deal as the president of the United States saying the same thing. That kind of makes sense. But, what do you think? Do you think that these leaders ought to respect Trump and sit down and just listen to what he has to say? Maybe he'll say something apologetic. Maybe he'll say something positive. Or do you think that they're right? They're doing their version of taking a knee, I guess, and just leaving. They're going to stay for the whole conference. But when he comes up to give his big speech on his worldview and all that, that they're just going to say, we're gone. We could leave before you start, but we want to make a scene. We're going to do like the vice president did at some of those football games. You remember the vice president, he comes to a football game knowing full well the players are going to take a knee. And when they take a knee, he makes it seem like, oh boy, this is such a surprise. I'm out of here. If I had known this, I'm out of here. Well, it's kind of like that in a way. It's kind of a little bit of a game. Everybody knows, Trump is going to make a speech. There's no need to leave. Just don't show up in the first place. Just don't show up. But the whole thing of we're going to show up, we're going to let him start to take his speech, and then we're going to walk. And we're going to let the cameras see us walk. And we're, who knows what kind of obnoxious kind of symbol they may throw up on the way out the door. It's kind of like, do you remember that guy over in Iraq who threw the shoe at Bush? And that's supposed to be like the height of disrespect, when you throw a shoe at somebody. And for this guy who threw a shoe at the president of the United States, it was supposed to be seriously disrespectful. Of course, in his own country, he became a hero when he did that. We thought it was disrespectful. I'm sure there's some people volunteered to go over there and put the beat down on him, and that would have been interesting. But in his own country, among his own people, he became a hero. And I am sure the same kind of effect would take place in Davos. That if you're a person in your country and Trump starts to speak, and then you say, okay, you think I'm one of these S-hole countries? Is that what you think of me? I'm out of here. I'm going to stand up and let you see my back. And whatever you have to say, I'm not interested in. Since I'm so low and you don't want me in the United States, I'm S-hole and all of that. What do you guys think? Come on, give me some comments. Come on back in. You want to debate that with me, your thoughts? You might agree with me, disagree with me. Maybe you think that these countries are terrible, terrible people because they are treating our president that way and that they should just listen to him. And he, just because he has a point of view that's different than theirs, that he ought to be respected, and he has the right to say his opinion the way anyone else does. Maybe you take the other side of the argument, and that they should stay and try to change his mind, put facts on the table, and and two wrongs don't make a right. Kind of saying that maybe he was wrong in saying what he said, but and disrespecting him on the national stage, that doesn't make the whole thing right. Well, maybe you take that point of view. So I'd like to hear it from those of you who are out there. I know it's getting you cranked up, in the morning, but I kind of think that's interesting, because I've never heard of that, and I can only imagine the press that would come after that. And we say, let me check. See, we got any comments out there from some of our people? Not yet on this subject. Or any thoughts that you guys like to join in and kind of speak with me on, join the broadcast. I'd love to have you in here. Just click on that link and we will have you on board. The last, we got SPS Smith watching, the famous Mr. Smith. So thank you, have you on board. Thank you for waking up and joining us. This, my last Trump story, and then we're going to get into some other things, is Trump's doctor reporting on his health and his weight. I have to say that, Trump is, they say it depends on who you listen to. They say he weighs 239 pounds, which is for his height. I don't think that's bad at all. They say one more pound and technically you're obese, this doesn't seem right to me. That at that height, depending on, he is either 6'2" or 6'3", depending on what you believe, what you use as documentation. According to his driver's license, they say, his height is 6'2". According to his doctor, it's 6'3". Because I think at 6'3" at 239, you're all right. You're not obese, according to the records. But at 6'2", at 239, they kind of think that you're obese, which doesn't seem to me to be right. Now, because I don't think a person who is 6'3", 239, if I looked at him, I don't think they would be obese. But the president is saying that, and his doctor is saying that he's 100% healthy, he's got great genes, and he'd live to be 200 if he only ate a little better. We'll see. I mean, Trump doesn't always, to me, look like he's ready to do, jump on the ground and do a few push-ups. But hold up, we got a comment. We got a comment out there I want to recognize. You guys can see it. So I'm going to just put this on the screen. Just as a comment from Daisy out there. Daisy says, I was thinking the same thing, just don't show up. But then I thought, I think it is better to show up and then walk out, because the media and the world could see his response to this. And also, I want him to speak with Mueller so that he can embarrass himself again when they finally catch him in yet another lie on national TV and finally get him out of there. Well, Daisy, that's interesting because, this is all a media show, because you can, just simply not show up in the first place if you're over there in Davos and you don't like Trump. I mean, but that's just the game, because most guys, I'm trying to think, if I didn't like you, I wouldn't come to your speech in the first place. I wouldn't waste my time. But it's got to be kind of a media thing for me to show up and then walk out. That I'm trying to kind of put on a thing so the reporters see me doing it. Maybe they want to interview me outside. I show up and then I stand up as you start to speak, and I kind of do you like that, and then I walk out the door. Now I've got my moment. If you're one of these small presidents of one of these small countries that doesn't get a lot of press on the national stage, that's a good way to get it. Because after you, and I wouldn't be surprised if these guys are fighting. Let me walk out first on the media. When they get out there, I'm going straight to the podium. Yes, I'm from this country and we need more help and assistance. And I want to talk about that. Yeah, I just walked out on Trump. But before I talk about that, let me do a country commercial. We want you to visit, whatever they say. Because it's a media move. And it's one you can't really blame them per se. For taking advantage of the situation, if in their heart, they don't like what Trump said. And normally, I would just not show up for that, because if someone said some kind of speech, I don't want to, or there's someone who I don't like, I'm not even going to their speech. I can't even imagine doing that. But if I want to do the media thing, then I might show up to their speech and then make a big deal about walking out and then make myself available if anybody wants to interview me. And then the same kind of thing. You think he should show up and actually go through and talk to Mueller because he'd embarrass himself. But, the worst thing that can happen to you is not that you get embarrassed. Is, as you see, lying to Mueller is just like lying to the FBI. The worst thing that can happen to you is you commit a crime that you didn't have before. Whatever he might have done before that they're investigating for, whether it's money laundering and the whole Russian thing and all that, whatever he might be investigated for previously, if he talks to Mueller and says an untruth, at that moment, he has created a fresh count, a fresh crime that he can go to jail for, notwithstanding everything else that might have happened. He could be 100% innocent about Russia. He could be 100% innocent about just about everything else. But lying to Mueller is more than just a matter of embarrassment. It's a matter of a crime. And from his lawyer's perspective, I can't see them saying this is what we want to run and do. Why expose ourselves to legal jeopardy if we don't have to? If we got to go talk to Mueller, okay. We'll just try to do it in a way that helps us and puts us in the safest possible position. But if we don't, then we won't. But I see your point of view. You just think that he's if he does this, that's one more step that's getting him closer to being kicked out of there. But what do you all think? Are there any other opinions out there about this? Any of the topics that we talked about? Should he, if you were Trump and you had an option, you didn't have to go and see Mueller, would you do it? And secondly, how do you feel about the fact that these guys are telling you? I mean, it's all in the news now, and that makes me think it's even more of a media thing. They're putting it out there. When Trump speaks, I'm going to walk out. They're all ready to do that. They probably got on their best suit, already. Let me get myself just right, just because he's about to talk before anybody else, stands up. I see Daisy said, yes, exactly. She wants those things to happen. Yeah, before anybody stands up, I want to tell the reporters, make sure you have the camera on me just as he's getting ready to talk. Put me on the split screen. So he's about to talk. I'm on the split screen. Then boom, the second he opens his mouth, the second he gets introduced, I'm out the door. Good morning. We got Alexis Coates out there. Good morning, Alexis. Good to see you. And then you've got your media moment, because I would think that there's some guys who are probably going to compete for that media moment. Everybody of little small countries that never get any attention. Oh man, I'm going to try to stand near the door. I don't know what I'm going to do. The second he starts to talk, I'm going to let the media says, all eyes on me. I'm just going to shake my head and, I'm out of here. I don't want to hear what he has to say, just for the point of view of the media, because, again, you didn't have to show up. Alexis, what do you think? I know you're very active in politics out there. And others, what do you think? Do you think that these guys are being disrespectful, saying that they're going to walk out on Trump when he starts to speak over there in Davos, or that they should just like good ambassadors or good presidents, just kind of listen to him? And it's funny. I keep dabbing my nose because you guys know I was out with the cold. I'm not trying to get the flus. I always joke about, and I'm not even joking, actually. When people come in here, I got my little disinfectant, I got my little sanitary squirt, and I squirt, let them put a little in their hands. I wipe the table down, and so I still caught a cold. So I'm sitting here dabbing. Funniest thing in the world. So I'm dabbing, and I put it down, and I got a little thing underneath it. I don't know what you think. I'm like putting it right on the table. I'm not doing that. But right after, on Tuesday, my friend Donnie, he does the show. He does the Donnie Glover show. So he comes in. We changed the setup here so Donnie could do his show. He had about 6 people here last Tuesday doing the show. So he comes in here. I've rearranged everything, but I haven't moved this yet. And Donnie has seen me on the live screen, dabbing my nose, and he's like, "Oh, Nate, what is that? Is that that thing? Is that thing I saw you on the Facebook Live dabbing your nose?" I was kind of embarrassed. I've completely forgotten about it. I'm so in the moment of, man, let me get these machines turned around. Let me make sure everything's right for Donnie's show, because some shows I do myself, other shows I produce for other people, it's just, what can I say? It's the flu season. I'm fortunate not to have had the flu, just to have a cold. But to get back to the situation with Trump, what do you think? Do you think those politicians should show him a little bit more respect? Because how would you like it if it was the inverse? Maybe some small country gets up there who dogs out Trump. He's sitting in the audience. And then all of a sudden the United States delegation says, "We're out of here. We don't hear anything you got to say, small country. We're out of here. We're America first. America first. We're out of here." What do you think? Because isn't that what happens when something like that happens? Okay, you do me like this time. Next time, when it's my turn, what makes you laugh will make you cry. What goes around comes around. So the next time there's one of these summits and there's a little bit of controversy and you say something up there I don't disagree, I don't agree with, the United States delegation is walking out. And I'm going to be out there with reporters, talking about you the way you're talking about me. So maybe we ought to let this whole comment thing just go. It was said, it's done. It's been a couple of weeks. Just let it go. And maybe I'm sure that's how Trump feels about it, because if you don't want it, I'm going to tell you, we're going to take it to the next level. You walk out on me here, I don't care the next time you speak, wherever it might be in the United Nations. And I'm going to tell my UN Secretary Haley, when you speak, walk out. And that's the whole thing, because that's what they do. It's like, you remember, as I keep saying, when Mike Pence did it at the ball game, when the players took the knee at the ball game, and he knew they were going to take the knee, but he wanted the media event. He didn't have to come in the first place. He knew those players were going to take a knee. They've taken a knee every game. But he wanted to put it out there, and the president and him had kind of arranged it. Man, we got to show how, America first. And we're not for all that stuff with that taking the knee stuff. We think they ought to be fired. And so when they take the knee, man, get up like you're shocked and disgusted. Man, these folks taking that knee. I'm out of here. I'm president, vice president. I'm out of here. My whole family's out of here. Secret Service, let's move. That's kind of how they played it. And the same thing, the same thing now, the same tactic, that media tactic is being turned over in Davos. What do you guys think? Give me some comments. SPS Smith, I know you're a political thinker. Give me some comments out there. Others who are talking, feel free to join the broadcast. Let me know exactly what you're thinking. If you think that feel a little differently, I'm going to touch again on the president's weight, because I kind of give him a pass on that a little bit. At 71 years old, he seems to me, at least when I look at him, he's never seemed like an old man. He doesn't move like an old man. He has a little hunch, and who knows, and that whole kind of side controversy, let's put it out there. What can I say? The side controversy with his wife, that the whole news breaking that during the time that he was married, old Trumpy Trump, he had that porn star. Let's just put it out there. I mean, I'm not the one who's leaking it or anything. I'm just, repeating it. That he paid, $150,000 to keep her quiet? And it kept her quiet for a minute, but it was not as much as she's going to make telling her story in her memoirs. And she might just truly put it out there, about Mr. Trump's abilities. Because ever since, do you remember during the debates where that the senator from Florida, Rubio, said that one of the things that he was especially shocked about Trump was not just the fact that when Trump was back there, that he had all these makeup artists who were doing his face and all that. And maybe, that's, to me, maybe he doesn't look so old because he got makeup on that's kind of transformational. I don't know. But one of the things that was really shocking about Trump is how small his hands were. Now, back in the old days, I remember before Trump became president and running for office, people used to talk about the fact that Donald Trump does not like to shake hands, that he was kind of a germaphobe. And I remember that he's not one of these guys that shakes hands, that he believes that too many germs are passed by shaking hands. And when he started to run for president, to be honest with you, I kind of wondered about that. I mean, how can you run for president and not shake hands with people and not kiss babies and not kind of be up and close and personal with people if you got this germ thing, which I know people who have and they feel a certain way. Quite frankly, the older I get, the more I realize, maybe I'm not really Superman. I can get sick, and then I think more about it. So, I don't fault Trump for feeling that way, but I didn't think I thought that would hurt him when he was going to run for president. So I thought that was the reason why he didn't shake hands. But according to Rubio, that part of the reason why he doesn't shake hands with people, or that he kind of does that thing where if he shakes your hand, he pulls you in and all that kind of stuff, is to kind of compensate for the fact that his hands are so small. And Rubio was the one that put it out there that it is kind of thought of that, small hands, maybe other parts of your body are kind of tiny. And everybody knows what you're talking about, what Rubio was talking about. My thing is, though, if you've got a woman who's a porn star and In my mind, that means you come on with me now. Come on, somebody come on back with me. If you disagree, you think I'm being disrespectful, being terrible. Oh, Nate, you're so terrible. You're such a stinker. Such a stinker, Nate. But if you think that, come on. Come on on the broadcast, click on that, give me a text, we'll respond to it. But if you got a woman who's a porn star, and implicit in that, you would think, well, she's, like I said in the State Farm commercial, she knows a lot because she's seen a lot. And I'm kind of putting the emphasis on seen a lot. And she may have some comparison statistics on our president. That may prove enlightening and may prove to be something that edifies, helps to raise our esteem for, or it may be something that may be a little bit embarrassing. If she were to tell her story. I remember that there was a similar situation with Shaquille O'Neal. And that there was this person who was kind of in the porn business that Shaquille O'Neal had a relationship with, and she wrote a book. Because, in fact, she had a relationship with Shaquille O'Neal and a lot of NBA players. And she was joking that the NBA should put her on the salary, that she had I won't go too deep in that, but she had a relationship with so many players. And she believed she lived a beneficial relationship. And what she said about Shaq in the book, now, I didn't read the book. Now, don't get me wrong. It wasn't a book. And I'm kind of, oh, man, let me get $20 to read about some woman talking about how she slept with all these guys, these NBA players. That's not like the book I want to get. But I did hear about what was in the book. And what she said was that just because Shaq is like 7'3", it doesn't mean that it's proportional, if you know what I mean. And she put it out there a little bit more directly than I did. That just because he's 7'3" doesn't mean like it's shared throughout his body. I'll just leave it there. And what if this woman, comes out with that kind of stuff with Trump? Now, I'm sure that when Rubio came out, he's like, oh man, check out my women. Trump was saying, just Rubio saying, I got small hands. He put his hands up. Oh man, look at my hands and all that kind of stuff. But I think this could kind of be embarrassing. The woman coming out, she's going to write the book. She's probably going to make a lot more money from it. And if they sue her, then she's got the ability to come back on the suit and everything and bring out information about what was happening in their relationship at the time and all that kind of stuff. And all these things coming out of Trump's closet. But the thing that really got me into this conversation is that his wife, has said that she did not want to go with him on the trip. Because, and it's being put out there and not disputed by his wife at all, she's mad about this porn star stuff. Because it happened while they were married, during the period that Trump was married to this present wife. And so it came out, she doesn't want to go with him on the trip or be around him because she's mad at him, which wouldn't surprise anybody. I mean, if it wouldn't surprise anybody, and I'm not dogging out Trump. I'm not, he who has not sinned, let him cast the first stone. What can I say? And so I'm not dogging Trump. I'm just talking about it. I'm just putting it out there to the media. Heck, we're doing this thing. We're doing the news. I'm just putting it out there. But, I'm not dogging him about it. I feel sorry for his wife because it's so embarrassing. And I know he regrets it. In my heart of hearts, I believe that Trump regrets it. That even though his big ego and all of that, he doesn't want to bring embarrassment to his wife or to his family in this way. You see, here it is. You got this beautiful supermodel wife, and she seems to be, by all counts, at least I think, you guys tell me what you think out there. I'm looking for comments, looking all over for comments. She seems like a nice person. Yeah, maybe she took the words from Barack Obama's wife, Michelle Obama, and put it into her speech and plagiarized his stuff a little bit. And she did some stuff, but she didn't do anything really nasty. She hasn't come out, to my knowledge. You guys can correct me. She hasn't really said anything really terrible. But I don't want to. I'm sure Trump doesn't want to see his wife thinking, "Well, what is happening? I mean, you got me. Why do you need this porn star when you got me? I'm superstar. People pay to take my picture. So what's happening? But and I'd be interested both from the women's side, the man's side, on this issue, because now she's not. It's a real story. She's not going over to Davos with you and putting on a good front. And maybe she could be kind of a little ambassador. You know, she was she came from a small country. Relatively, maybe she could be an ambassador to some of these other. She could go over and talk to these other small countries and kind of make them feel better. Hey, I know my husband. He may have said this, and he wasn't really speaking, you know, in the way he really feels in his heart. And, you know, I understand and feel your pain. I'm from the small country too, and so on. And maybe you can give him a little break on this. You know, she could have done that, but when she's mad at you, not going to happen. When you sleep with the porn star during your marriage and he comes out, not going to happen. And I'm sure Trump thought that, hey, I got that all taken care of. I've given this woman, you know, X amount of dollars. She's agreed to stay quiet. Yeah, man, I don't know if I would have held that much trust, you know, in that kind of situation that she was going to stay quiet. But what else can you do? I mean, you know, hey, this is not the kind of thing I want to come out ever, you know, let alone when I'm running for president. So all I can do is give her a few bucks, get her to sign an agreement that she's going to be quiet and keep it moving. That's all he can do. And his ego, you know, I just kind of keep it moving. And other presidents have survived as much, you know, with President Clinton and so on. He survived stuff. So if it ever did come out, he could survive it too. What do you think? Well, give me some comments. This is two-way talk. You know, this is Mornings with Nate. You know, what do you think? You think that, you know, that should, you know, nothing seems to stop Trump. I mean, he has no type of shame, as we used to say. As we say, the old saying used to be, there's no shame in this game, you know, despite the fact, you know, I got this in my skeleton in my closet. This will not stop me. And it's turned out to be true. Now, come on. It's turned out to be true that nothing stops him all the way to the White House. Not any of this negative stuff, not any other. And he dishes it out, you know, when what Rubio was talking about his small hands and implying small other things, you know, he went back, he's talking about a little Rubio. He went right back. Hey, you know, little Rubio's so short, you know, you want him to stand on my lawn at Christmas time with a little green hat, you know, or something, you know, where he just back it, you know, Rubio and so on. And I guess there are people who like that and appreciate it. What do you think? Yeah, you know, come on, give me. Yeah, if you guys are out there, feel free to join the broadcast. Feel free to come in and be a part. I'm kind of always looking to see if you're out there, and give me some text comments, or feel free to come on board. Glad so many people, more and more people join us as the hour kind of gets into closer to 8. I'm waking more people up in the morning. So tell me what you think about that. I'm going to move on. We can come back to it, though. Happy to talk about it. We can come back to it. But I'm going to move on. One of the other stories in the news that's kind of sad to me is Toys R Us is out there. And they're saying that Toys R Us are going to close 180 stores. 180 stores throughout the United States, starting in February and going through mid-April. You know, Toys R Us are in bankruptcy, and they're trying to close these stores because they're thinking that this move will help them to get out of bankruptcy, closing these stores and not having to pay for them. They'll make more money on the other stores, and that will help them get out of bankruptcy. I'm very sad about that. I'm sad about it because, first of all, you know, I love children. I love kids in general. Now my kids are grown. My Toys R Us days were behind me, and I really enjoy them. You know, I really enjoy going into this toy store at Christmas time and during birthday time and shopping for stuff. And you know, sometimes, you know how it is when you grow up poor. You look for all the stuff that you didn't have. Now, mind you, I had a great childhood, and you know, I can't really complain about, you know, poor. You know, I was poor, but not as poor as others. You know, you know, you have this thing, oh, I'm going to get them this, I'm going to get them that, and it's just fun. And so it's just fun for me. I like it. Plus, I'm a natural shopper. I like shopping anyway. A lot of men don't like it, but I like it. Going in stores and kind of shopping, bargaining. You know, I've talked about that. But then it went away. I mean, all my kids, they got grown. Nobody's going to Toys R Us anymore. Nobody's holding dad's hand. Nobody's got that big old smile on their face when they see a toy they like, or a stuffed animal. You know, it's those days just pass you. But then my oldest, made me a grandfather. So now I got to do it again. So now I get back into the stores. Heck, I take pictures. I'll probably post one of those pictures of me shopping for my granddaughter. I wanted to, I was very, very fortunate. Yeah, my kids are all, 3 girls, and they're all different in terms of their personalities and their skills and their strengths and all, which makes life interesting. But I have to admit, when I had girls, I thought that, okay, I'm going to have to learn something new because as a little boy, I'm pretty much for me. I've always been around boys, men, doing manly things and doing things that boys do, wrestling in the grass and getting dirty and stuff like that. And, that's kind of what I knew about. And I didn't really spend much time with girls per se. In my neighborhood, I'm always playing basketball or baseball or something like that. And so I thought that that's what I have to learn. I have to learn the girl stuff, going to the ballet and having the dolls and the doll houses. And I'm really, I'm willing. I love my girls. I'm willing to kind of get into that, and not and let the man stuff go. But I just had such a tremendous mixture with my daughters. My oldest two were athletic, and then my youngest was very artistic. So, but my oldest, she, one day, I decided, a lot of some of you out there who know me from basketball know I used to have a game and I used to play basketball all the time. So guys would bring their sons to the basketball court. And so one day I decided it was an inside gym. It was an enclosed place I was going to play that morning. And I'm going to bring my daughters with me. I didn't have to babysit them. I like taking them with me. I'm going to take them with me to the court. I immediately regretted it. Because I forgot just how much foul language is on the basketball court. But there was another court, and it was in a big gym. And I gave my girls a ball, and I said, okay, you girls, play with this, try to shoot some hoops while I'm over here playing. And I could keep my eye on them. And because the door was on the side I was on, and far side was where they were, and I could keep my eye on them. That was enclosed. So, and then, while I'm playing, I was almost distracted. And my oldest two, my youngest was too young to go. But my oldest, they were sinking all these baskets. And I said, And my oldest, she was like driving to the hoop all hard and everything, going right to the hoop. And I said, So after it was all over, because I'm not one of these kind of dads. I want to push the sports thing on you. If you want to play, that's fine. But I'm not going to be one of these, you must play sports thing because I played sports. But if you want to, I'm with you, and if you want to play ball, here's the basketball. If you want it, don't feel you have to take it now. I'm not forcing it on you, but if you want it, here it is. And my oldest, she say, yeah, Dad, I like to play. That's all it took. That's all it took. Suffice it to say, okay, we can play. Let me show you what I know. Because if I know anything, about sports, I can show you basketball. I can show you how to shoot. I can show you this. And she's like, she's eating it up. Yeah, Dad. Yeah. And so by the time she reached middle school, let's say, and so this is young. We've got Crystal out there. Crystal McMath. Oh, thank you. Welcome to the broadcast. So by the time that my daughter was in middle school, again, I put the ball in her hands very young, and so by the time she reached middle school, she was like a superstar. I mean, her team in middle school won the middle school championship and went undefeated that year. And I was telling her, a lot of times you can win championships, and it's a big deal to win a championship, but it is rare that you win a championship and you go undefeated. That's rare. You may not see that again in life. And true enough, she never did. I mean, she went on, but never went undefeated. So by that time, though, she had developed a little bit of reputation, as a baller, So although I thought that it was all going to be, ballet and dolls, here it is. My oldest turns out to be a baller. So she gets on to high school. She goes to this high school, right? And the high school, the year that she got there, the team was like 2-23, that they had won 2 games and lost 23. But then the coach, who I didn't know at the time, went to college with me. She recognized me after a while. We started talking and she went to college. But she knew my daughter. And it was the first of that transition, because, I'm Nate Chapman. I'm all on television and I'm doing all these things and in the newspaper. I'm a powerful guy and chairman of the board of regents. That's when a transition occurred that you're Taylor's dad. So all of a sudden, my rep is like Taylor's dad, my oldest daughter. So anyway, that team that she got on, 2-23. The next year, it turned. She became a freshman starter, and the whole thing turned around. I'm not going to spend all day talking about that because once the father starts talking about his daughter, here's my point. They went on, and I'll cut this point, and I'll get back to the news before I lose everybody out there. Well, anyway, they went on and win the state basketball championship, the first in this high school's history. My daughter, if you look it up, some paper athlete of the week. She scored, 20 some odd points and 11 rebounds. And it was like this game. And I'm going to tell you this, I'm going to move on. And so she was going to go up in this championship semifinal game against all these folks. My daughter's probably about 5'11". And so she was going to go up against all these girls with like 6'3", 6'4", and all that. And they had this rep, and the team that they were going to play was undefeated. And so this Washington Post was covering the game. It was a big game. And the Washington Post asked my daughter, he said, you're about to go up against these girls, because she was like the team's lead rebounder and all. They're 6'3" and 6'4" and all that. You're 5'11". How do you expect to rebound against these girls? And then so she said something that was like classic Nate Chapman. She's like, well, my daughter's kind of understated. She's like, rebound's not about height. It's about desire. And he put it in the paper. Hey, got me. You're my daughter. You're my daughter. Of course, they went on to win, and she out rebounded all three of these tall girls combined. And as I said, she went on some paper athlete of the week and all this kind of stuff, and most valuable player and all that, and went on. So here's my story. So when Toys R Us is closing, I'm sad about it. But now that my oldest is giving me a granddaughter, you know what my first gift was? They had this little basketball hoop. When I went to Toys R Us, yes, I put the hoop in her hands. A little basketball hoop, a little ball. I'm not forcing it on you now, but I used to be a player. And your mom used to be a player. Now, I'm not forcing it on you. You might turn out to do something else. And that would be fine with granddad. But here's a little hoop. We're going to put it over in the corner. And if you feel like it, just let me know. Here, I'll put the little ball in your hand and I'll show you what to do. And because, heck, I'm looking for another generation of ballers. Maybe I didn't expect it the first time, but you might turn out to be a baller. And we're going to get you early. 1-year-old, 2-year-old, we're going to get you into the game. And Toys R Us, I don't want you to close because there's so many other little toys, like, stuff that is granddad now I want to buy. So I'm glad you're not closing altogether. And the stores, they're closing a lot of them. They're closing 180 stores throughout the United States. But they're closing them in order to emerge from bankruptcy. Stores that are not making a whole lot of money. They're going to be closing those stores. So that's what you're going to see. And hopefully it won't be one of my stores in my area because I like shopping there. Give me some comments. How you guys feel about Toys R Us closing? I know I support them. I can't see why they're in such financial trouble. They have plenty of stuff. They have more stuff than any other store other than Toys R Us. Where do you even go to buy? There's just a warehouse of children's toys. So give me your thoughts on that. How are your feelings about things? And I'm going to move on to another story. There's a new scam that is going around the country. And the scam is targeting men who have had affairs. And the scam says, I know you cheated on your wife, so you get this anonymous note. I know you cheated on your wife, and I want you to pay me X amount of dollars in Bitcoin. Have you seen that? Have you heard about it? So people there's this anonymous, people, I guess, seeing some married guy and they threaten you, kind of extort you, and they send you some anonymous letter. And yes, unless you pay me so much money in Bitcoin, and which is really the story. The scam's the story, but the whole thing of wanting to be paid in Bitcoin. Unless you pay me in Bitcoin, I'm going to let it out that you had this affair. That scam is going around. I thought that was interesting. People, because of my investment background, they always ask me, is Bitcoin a good investment? And we're going to talk about one other story related to Bitcoin. Is Bitcoin a good investment or is it not a good investment? I happen to think that Bitcoin is here to stay, because of the players that are getting involved. But I especially think that Bitcoin, when you see kind of the rank and file blackmailers wanting to be paid in Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is supposed to be an anonymous currency. It's not really 100% anonymous, but it's supposed to be an anonymous currency. So it's not like, I guess some blackmailer gets paid with dollars. You can put a little device in the dollars and they can track where the dollars move and all that kind of stuff, or write the numbers down of the money and track it and all that. Where Bitcoin is supposed to be a whole lot more difficult to do that with. And it's more difficult, but not impossible. But I thought it was interesting. First, the scam was interesting. But I guess that's kind of an old thing. People probably do people like that all the time. Some rich guy doesn't want his wife to know, doesn't want his reputation to be hurt that he's having an affair, gets one of these anonymous letters, and he pays a few bucks, especially if they're not asking too much, and just hopefully to let it go. So, that's probably an old scam. You shouldn't do it. You should report it to the FBI that you're being extorted. That's what should happen. But I'm sure that it happens more often than we know. But to me, what made this story rise to the point that I wanted to even mention it this morning was the fact that the blackmailers wanted to be paid in Bitcoin. That obviously they think that Bitcoin is here to stay as well. They want to be paid in the currency that they believe that they'll be able to go out and buy whatever they want to do whatever they want to do. So I thought that was an interesting story. What do you think about that? What do you think about the fact that Bitcoin has gotten to the point where even blackmailers want to be paid in it because they think that if you pay me that, it's kind of untraceable. What do you think? Give me your opinions. Anybody out there has thought about that? I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts. Remember, this is a two-way talk format. There's a link that is out on the We website. And you can find the We if you're not there now, because this broadcast goes out in a lot of different directions. This broadcast goes out to pages that I'm affiliated with. And so you may be getting on one of those pages. But if you come to where the broadcast kind of originates, which is at the We, and under the We, and if you want to find the We, go to Facebook, do a search, and it is the We 123. THEWE 123, and you'll find the We. On there, there'll be a link. And you can click on that link and join the broadcast, and we can talk about these issues directly. The screen will split that you see, assuming that you follow the rules that you heard me mention earlier about, making sure you're not doing any bad stuff. And then I'll bring you on the broadcast. And if you start to do some bad stuff, go for bad, call me a name, click, you'll be gone. So, but as long as you don't do anything like that, then we can just talk about the issue or another issue you might be interested in. And if you don't feel like doing that, you say, well, I don't know if I want my face out there in front of thousands of people, that you just send us a comment and I'll just react to that. And I'll see the comments flow up one way or the other. It's kind of two ways I see comments, and we can talk about it. So the other thing, did you see the story on 50 Cent? Apparently 50 Cent, back in 2014, did an album. And the album was called Animal Ambition. Animal Ambition. And he let people pay for that album in Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin at that time was selling for about $662. And again, when you buy Bitcoin, you don't buy the Bitcoin. You buy a percentage of a Bitcoin. It's called a Shalace or something like that, begins with an S, but it is actually 1/1,000,000th of the Bitcoin. So you're actually just paying pennies for a Bitcoin. So when you do that, you can pay for something like an album. You just take that lowest thing, which represents 1/1,000,000th of a Bitcoin, and you take as much of that to pay for the album. So a 50 Cent album was selling for $20, $30, whatever it is. You can accumulate those 1/1,000,000th of a Bitcoin till you get to $20 worth and then buy his album. And people did that to the tune of about $400,000. So about $400,000. I mean, it wasn't, a big killer seller, the album, but he made about $400,000 in Bitcoin. And obviously, 50 Cent has it the way he is living these days. He just said just let it sit in his account and didn't even think about it anymore. And I guess when you're rolling like 50 cents, you can have $400,000 and just let it sit. And in his words, he forgot about it. Well, that's kind of nice to be at a point in your life financially where you could have $400,000, which is what it was worth at the time. You did about $400,000 in album sales in Bitcoin and kind of let it sit to the point where you forget that I've got $400,000 sitting in a certain place. Now, I can understand a person saying, I'm just going to let it ride as a strategy. But in the case of 50 cents, he had the $400,000 sitting in his Bitcoin wallet. And in his own words, he said he forgot about it, that it was there. Well, I guess that was kind of good because the Bitcoin was selling for $600. We know rose to a top of about $17,000. It's since dropped back to, I think it's worth about $10,000 right now. But even still, $600 at the time that you let people use Bitcoin to buy your album to $10,000 is great. $17,000 is even better. But the way they priced it is that 50 cents on that move, by letting it roll, by letting it ride, made $8 million in Bitcoin. So that investment, that $400,000 that he had, that he got in Bitcoin by selling this album, and he gave people a choice. I think you could pay me in Bitcoin, you could pay me in something else. But so he may have made some money that he noticed in real dollars, in actual dollars, and the Bitcoin money he just kind of let sit. So strategically, from a marketing perspective, one could kind of think about that maybe that might be something I might want to do. You guys out there might be selling a product or service, and you can say, well, you can pay me in dollars or you can pay me in Bitcoin. I don't care what happens with the Bitcoin. I'm just going to let it roll, see what happens. But the actual dollars I'll go do something with. But my little Bitcoin wallet, I'm just going to let that roll the way 50 cents did. And 50 cents made $8 million. So people ask me, is Bitcoin a good investment? Well, first, I want to see him turn $8 million into dollars, 8 million Bitcoin dollars into 8 million American legal tender dollars. And then I'll be a little bit more impressed with it. Because there's a limited amount of stuff that you can buy with Bitcoin dollars. There's a list. You can go on the internet and Google, what can I buy with Bitcoin? And there are people like 50 cents who are prepared to sell you their product with Bitcoin. And usually those people, though, are, trying to sell product in actual dollars. And it's kind of an extra strategy. It's extra that, I'm going to allow you to also buy this particular product with Bitcoin. This cup, which Daisy, I am getting to. Daisy wants me to make sure I mark it because this cup's always on the table. It's her idea. There's a little green tea in that cup that I drink. But from a promotional standpoint, to kind of put the we on here, maybe on the back, Mornings with Nate is, kind of put it in your mind, get you thinking about it. So I will do that. But it's probably a good marketing strategy. If any of you guys like one of my cups, it may cost X dollars and may cost X in Bitcoin to be either way. And that's kind of what 50 Cent did. But he forgot about the Bitcoin portion of it and let it ride, and Bitcoin took off. I guess from his perspective, if it didn't take off, and he lost $400,000, which is interesting. Let's say Bitcoin went the other way and it crashed. It started off at 600, and you look at it and it's worth 60 cents. And that, I guess he's saying, hey, what the heck? That's money I didn't even have. So $400,000 turned into this, $40, no biggie, because that's the way he's rolling these days financially. But it didn't work that way. It worked the exact opposite way. That money, $662 it was worth at the time, turned into $8 million. So he made quite a substantial profit on that. What do you guys think about that? Do you think Bitcoin's here to stay? I'd like to debate that with you, talk to you about it. If you do, why don't you just send me text me something, and And we'll just, comment back and forth, or you're certainly welcome to join the broadcast and we can talk about that. We will have some other guests who will be joining us as we kind of continue to do the shows in the morning and get that out. But the last news story I'm going to kind of cover, which within this hour, is the return, once again, of Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods, who is now 42 years old. And it's kind of hard to think about Tiger in that way. I'm kind of looking over to my right because I'm always checking to see if there's a brave soul who sent me a comment or text us a message, or even more so, is willing to come on the broadcast. But we'll have some more guests doing that. But Tiger Woods is making his return to the PGA Tours. He is going to start. And this is his first return in 12 months, because as you know, Tiger has had some ups and downs in the last little while. He had that situation where he was pulled over and they thought he was drunk, but in fact, he had just, I guess, had some medication that somehow caused him to have the appearance that he was drunk. That the medication, I don't think he took too much of it, but I think what he was prescribed kind of worked against each other and kind of made him appear to be disoriented. I think that was the story. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Make sure you text that in if I'm wrong about that. But I don't think I'm wrong that he has been through some times, not just being pulled over, but he's had to take a lot of pain relievers because he's had a number of different surgeries on his back. And I saw something where he's had quite a few surgeries. He may have had like 10 surgeries, and you don't think about it. But every time somebody cuts you, most people say, well, that's not a good thing. And he's had probably 10, things in elbow, shoulder, back, hips. I don't know, hip, I think knee and all that. And yet he is, still trying to play. He's trying to say, well, okay, I'm okay now, and then I can compete. I guess it's trouble when you're trying to compete and everybody compares you against what you used to be, which is the greatest golfer in the world. And then in addition to the surgeries, you've got Father Time, which as they say, is the only fighter who's never lost a battle. Father Time always wins. At the end of the day, you just get old and you can't do what you used to be able to do. I brag about basketball and how I used to have a game, but it is very much used to have a game. Because if I touch a basketball now, I'm kind of shocked at how little I can do. Because, you play ball, you play a sport. I'm sure Tiger's the same way. You do the same thing probably a million times and you expect the same result. But as you get older, your arm strength goes down, your rotator cuff, your shoulder, all of it just, you're not getting as much push on the ball. And maybe you think your basketball your eye-hand coordination changes a little bit. And it's just something that passes you, especially when you don't stay with it. Tiger hasn't been out in a major in 12 months. So he is kind of trying to get himself back into the game, literally. But at the same time, he's being judged by the old Tiger. And I don't know too many guys. Maybe he might have one game that he's a superstar. But getting older is getting older. And that means that person, if Tiger Woods at 42, could not even stand on the same golf course as Tiger Woods at 20. That person who's out there now probably needs to try to be the best Tiger Woods a 42-year-old Tiger Woods can be, and not kind of look back to the days when you used to be able to do what you used to be able to do at 20. And because I can say it as an athlete, it's just not going to happen. I used to think when I was younger, and old guys used to talk about, oh man, my knee, oh man, my back. And they used to slow up. I used to blow by them. I used to think that's just an excuse because my game was so good. You guys are making these excuses. Well, as I've gotten older, I see it's not an excuse. It's a fact. You just don't move as quickly. You want to play some defense, you just can't get your feet to move as quickly, and you do something that used to be a quick move. Now you're getting your shot blocked because you're just not moving fast enough, and a person can close on you quicker. You're especially a young guy. And when I was 20, I can't even imagine a guy 42 playing me when I was 20 years old and expecting to win. I don't even know. You could be an NBA superstar, and I can't even see you beating me when I was 20. But and maybe that's something that we in the public need to come to grips and not really put the pressure on Tiger Woods. We're just happy you're still in the game, happy you're still attempting to hit the ball. And will come just because of remembering what you used to be able to do, what you used to be able to bring to the game, and not look at it as such a tragedy when you don't win every tournament that you're in. And kind of take a little bit of the expectation off him while he's fighting back to be the best Tiger Woods he can be at 42. What do you guys think? Do you have any impressions of that? The whole thing. Do you think that Tiger Woods can ever be the golfer he once was? And do you think he could be competitive against the golfers that exist today? Is there enough left in Tiger Woods, even a 42-year-old Tiger Woods? Is a 42-year-old best he can be Tiger Woods somebody that can be competitive against the younger golfers that are out there playing? Or is this something, do you think he just hang it up? Maybe it's time for Tiger Woods to hang it up, as all athletes eventually have to do. Michael Jordan, they say one of the greatest ever to play the game. Depending on who you talk to, he is either the greatest or one of the greatest. Usually the debate is back and forth between Magic Johnson and Tiger Woods. Of course, I'm old enough to remember some of the other players that it would be very interesting to see some of these players play against the Jerry Wesses of the day, because there's some other players that were pretty good, and whether or not it would be nice if you could see a young LeBron. I remember looking at one of the sports channels and Paul Pierce, who they nicknamed The Truth. Paul the Pierce Truth of the Boston Celtics. He used to say, well, LeBron has won all these championships, but if he had played against me when I was younger, maybe he would not have, because Paul was such a fantastic shooter, fantastic player. And it's kind of like that, that you just get old, because although all of these athletes at one point in time in their mind, I know in my mind, I can remember it all. I can remember what it was like to go up against somebody who's playing me as hard as he possibly could and just could not stop me. I'm unstoppable, kind of thing. And then to get to the point where, somebody who you don't really consider to be a great player is like D'ing you up. You can't do anything about it. It's got a transition and getting older and everything. And maybe with Tiger Woods, it's just a little bit of it. And is it heroic to see him play through all his injuries, or is it tragic to see him play what some would say is beyond his prime? How do you look at it? What do you think about that? Do you think Tiger ought to kind of get out there? Just because you get older, you don't just stop playing golf, but you stop having the expectation level. And I have to say, even for the guys that I know, most guys have the expectation that they're always going to be at the top of their game. And when they compare whether or not they had a good day or not, they compare it against their best game. And that best game may have occurred when they were 20 or whatever it might be. They don't look at it and say, well, now that I'm, 45, 50, whatever it might be, I'm out here playing. And in the last 3 years, I only, scored a certain amount. And based on that, I'm having a good day because I'm right in there. I'm doing a little better than that. Most guys think, well, the best game I ever had was when I was 20 and I did this exceptional thing. And based on that, well, I didn't do so well today. Too often guys think that way. And do you think that Tiger, in his mind, is kind of putting out there, or at least that we're putting the pressure on him to say that we want the old Tiger. We want the Tiger who dominated. We want the Tiger who did these amazing long balls. And the Tiger that can't do those things, who can't even rank in the top 10 or you can't even get in the top 50, is a Tiger that maybe, we don't want to see anymore, that we don't want to see you past your prime. I remember when I saw one of my personal greatest heroes, Muhammad Ali, fight past his prime, that I used to hate it. I used to hate seeing him take a hit in the ring. At the same time, I always felt that because he was Ali, he always had a chance to win. But sometimes you could just see the age of the man, and you say, well, man, I wish you didn't take this fight. I wish you didn't have to take this beating for whatever reason you're doing it, because, the respect I have for you and the memory that I have of what you used to do and what you stood for. And with with the Tiger Woods of the world the same way. I mean, how do you feel when you see him take a shot and it's a horrible shot? He hits the ball, and it's not like the Tiger Woods of old, but it's the Tiger Woods you're just getting used to seeing. The Tiger Woods that has to bail out of golf tournaments because of some injury. The Tiger Woods that hits a shot, and it would be a shot, normally an easy shot for him, but it just tails on into the woods. And you say, well, okay, Tiger, that's okay. Getting older, man, that's okay. Or do you say, well, that's just tragic, man. I just can't even watch it. I don't want to see that happen. I want to remember the Tiger Woods that instilled fear when he stepped on the court, the golf course, and he was playing folks. That Tiger Woods. So I don't know. You guys tell me what you're thinking. But he is back. Whatever we think, he's going to give it a try. So let me know what you guys think out there. If there are any comments or any thoughts on it, on the game. By the way, just let me just mention just quick what we do here. There are any number of ways to do live streaming on Facebook, other platforms. We have the ability to launch on multiple platforms now, and I can tell you the investment is more than just a notion. I happen to have a tech background, both hardware, software kinds of stuff, and a video. The video editing, all the whole rest of it, in addition to my financial stuff. I just like learning. And one of the things that we want to do at the this show, Mornings with Nate, is a broadcast underneath of the and what we want to do is to go 24 hours, 7 days a week. And so we're always looking for content. So I want to just put out there that for those of you who are looking for someone perhaps to produce you, to get you out there, now you can go live as easy as taking your cell phone and punching one button and propping it up and just starting talking. You can go live that way, or you can go live in a much more higher level way, especially if you're going live in a way that you expect people to pay for something at some point in the future. So that you might want to consider having someone produce you, and you focus on whatever your product is. If you're interested in that, you ought to make contact with me. Because we're looking for content, and we're looking to be helpful in getting people out there. So if you're interested, I'm just going to put my email address, just give it to you right now. It's Nate, Nate, at THEWE.world, not .com, but .world, WORLD world. So if you're interested, let me know, and we will, you just put it in there. We'll talk about that a little bit. So I just thought I'd do that. I'll probably talk about it at each of the shows, because we're very interested in helping people get their voice out there. And as I said, this is to produce at a really high level, where you do things like split screens, and you do things like graphics and remote locations and stuff like that. There's a little bit of an investment, not just the expense of the actual equipment, which is an investment, but also the investment and just knowledge of how to do it, what to do when things go bad, what you can expect. Occasionally a broadcast will drop for no real reason and restart. I mean, there are lots of things. The other day, as you guys who were watching the show heard me say, that the Facebook connection went down. That had nothing to do with me, but some entity that we wire through, their Facebook connection went down. So part of the broadcast went down, not all of it, because we broadcast through multiple systems, multiple cameras, and so people who see us on the We page, they may see something they see the same broadcast, but it's slightly delayed on the Nathan Chapman Plays and stuff like that. So you see that as the same thing, but the technology, the source of the stream is different. So if you guys don't want to be bothered with that, don't want to be bothered with lighting, all the lights on me, or sound, and how that integrates, the whole issue of why is Nate wearing earplugs? Well, there's a reason. When people come online, by my wearing the earplugs reduces the feedback on the broadcast. So if someone speaks into a speaker, sometimes there's feedback, and then if you wear the earplugs, it reduces the feedback. Just little things like that you pick up along the way. And we're, as much as We are broadcasting, and we're pulling in places, as you saw earlier. Oh, Derek Burnett is watching. Derek has a show that's coming on later today. Derek, we produce a show for Derek called The Conscious Cultural Narrative. Conscious Cultural Narrative. That's CCN. Derek comes on at 7:00, and he's going to have a lot of interesting things to say. I've seen a lot of his material. He's got interesting guests coming on, and we kind of produce that show for Derek. And he does a great job. It's a great following. So you'll see that. And so we're stepping our game up as well. I mean, what you see today is a little different than what you'll see in 2 weeks. That's kind of the reason. When I started the show, I was talking about how last night I really didn't get much sleep. And some of it is because there's so many things that we're working on. And I, kind of work out in my mind is the right way to do it and the right way to go and, talk it through and so on and so forth. But some of it is, and you'll enjoy this if you're out there, Alexa Still, we're going to be stepping up the game. And and what you see even now is going to be even more exciting, and there's going to be more to it. And when you do that, there's just really a lot more coordination to make it happen. So some of the things I was trying to get in came in, and I'm real happy about that. And so I'll be testing some of those things out later today. And I was kind of thinking about how I want to do that. And one of the things I like doing is building websites. I can build websites fairly quickly, and so just incorporating that all together. So my point is, if you don't want to be bothered with that, if you just want to come and do your thing, get your message out there, get your voice out there. We're happy to do that. And so again, if you just make some contact with me wherever you might be in the world. So if you're like Barney and you're in Nigeria, or you're like the young lady Miss Briones, who is one of our guests tomorrow. I mean, these days run into each other, believe me, for me. She's going to be here tomorrow morning. I think she's from South America. But if you're out there, Adrian, correct me if I'm wrong. But she's a sex coach, and she's going to be talking about her business. And some of you out there may benefit from that. No, Alexis, I'm not talking about you. Hey, I'm just joking, man. You know me. I'm just joking. All right. See, if that doesn't get him on click that link. I don't know what will. But the bottom line is that there are people who who want to focus on making sure they put their message out there in the best way possible, don't want to be bothered with the tech part of it, reach out to us. And so, again, I'll put that email out. And, it's funny. I put my email out and I know it's being listened to. You know how I know it's being listened to? Because in addition to all of you good folks who send me information and we chew the fat, I get all these kind of quack stuff from all over the world. And stuff you have just won $100 or some stuff like that, some craziness that you get. So I'm going to put it out there because all I do is just delete those kind of emails. Of course, you don't want to open them because you don't know what might be in them as far as a virus. So before they can even go that far, someone Mr. Nate, you have just won a free trip to Paris. Click here or something like that. I'll open that up. Click, delete. So, but I'm going to put the email out there anyway. So if you guys who are serious and you want to kind of step up your live stream game and your Facebook live game or anything, because we do multiple platforms, your YouTube live game, your Instagram live game, any of that, contact me at Nate, Nate, at the THEWE.world, WORLD, because you see the map behind us, at least you see it today. That is what we're interested in. Where we want to talk to folks all over the world. And it's always interesting to me, some of my friends that not just throughout the United States, but throughout the world who come into the broadcast. And it's not just me talking for 3 hours, and because we go from 6 to 9, but we bring in people from all over the world. And we will be doing even more of that going forward. In addition to broadcasts, as I mentioned, there are additional broadcasts. At 5 o'clock today, we'll do the broadcast Chapman Means Business, and we'll be talking about a business issue. I think today maybe we'll be talking about taxes in a new tax bill. I have to confirm that. There'll be a guest coming on talking about that. And then, as I mentioned, tomorrow morning, we'll have Miss Adrienne Briones, who is a sex coach, and she'll be talking about how she got started in business and how she helps her clients and what you can do if you like to reach out to her and I think South America, but it could be just South America, as in New Mexico or something like that. I'm not quite sure. But and then some others who will be coming on board next week to talk about their business and talk about what they're doing in their part of the world. And I always say, too, and if you've got a picture of where you are, in your part of the world, just send it in to me. I like to start my broadcast with those things. I start my broadcast with interesting pictures of where people are located, because we can see that we're reaching people all over the world. If you look at my friends list, you'll see people from all over the planet that we reach out to. We like to get some pictures from you, pictures of, we got Maxine. Good morning, Maxine. I see you. See you out there. Mm-hmm. And be careful out there getting to work. Because since everybody now is, Maxine's not a federal employee, but since the federal employees are back to work, that's not really a story today. It was such a big deal and such a big story that it is kind of gone away, I guess, since folks are going back to work. But it is a story in the sense that it seems like much ado about nothing as far as the immigration stuff goes. At one point, it seemed like we might have some real action on immigration. And now, at least in the short run, things have gone quiet. Mm-hmm. But, people are saying, you go back and forth. There are those who said what the issue was with this budget was immigration for the Democrats. And for the Republicans, they just want to get a balanced budget. But then there are others who say that amendment that we put in, sometime in 2000, it said that if we're going to add things to the deficit, that we need to take an equal amount of spending away, that issue of what that takeaway was going to be was some type of issue. I'm not real sure about that. If you guys, and we got Earl Bravo who's watching on this page. I know Earl was on earlier on the other page. But that whole issue of the federal government shutdown and the reasons for it was a big issue yesterday, but we're not really talking about much of that today because things are back and things are rolling. And I guess if you lost money that one day that the government was closed, usually what happens is there's some type of supplemental budget that's done. I shouldn't say usually because the government doesn't close that often. But what happened the last time, and Vanessa, who was out there here the other day, reminded me, who does work for the federal government, that the government was closed 16 days and they got some type of supplemental pay. Some people did. And there is a story out there that states that not everybody did. Now, we've got Anna Marie West. And she is watching. Anna Marie, good morning. And welcome to Mornings with Nate. So I really always like as I get closer to the 8 o'clock hour, we go from 6 to 9. But I always notice that people, I guess I'm hitting them in the sweet spot. And that from the closing hour, from about this time closing, we get more and more people joining the broadcast. So I'm hoping that trend stays today. I'm so thankful for the early birds like myself who would join the broadcast at 6, like Earl. I know he's doing 6 and Daisy's right after. I see it popping in there at 6 and so on. And kind of getting us rolling in the morning with your thoughts. But I do notice that as we get closer to 8 o'clock in Eastern Standard Time, for those of you in different parts of the country, that things tend to pick up with people. And that's really my hope. See, my hope is that this broadcast, maybe you're picking it up on your cell phone, and that you or your iPad or whatever, man, you don't have to leave me in the house. You don't have to cut your TV off. You can just keep me on the cell phone and just go to your car. I don't want you to have an accident. Just put me on your little holder and you can just kind of listen to what we're saying and as more people start to come in, We will let you know that those folks are in and talk about their comments, because this is a two-way talk format. And although I guess I have proven over the last few weeks I can talk for 3 hours straight if called upon, or if I have to. Just a quick segue. One of my buddies, I'm going to appear on a panel talking about entrepreneurship. And my friend, I said, well, how long do you want me to talk? He said, well, the segment is an hour and a half, and we've got like 5 or 6 people. So I said, you're going to divide an hour and a half over 5 or 6 people. I don't think I have to worry about that one. Because, I talk 3 hours in the morning if I have to. I don't really necessarily want to all the time, but I was just joking with him. I don't think that would be a problem for me if you're going to divide that time up equally. And saying a little something on the panel. Actually, I think on that particular panel I'll be hosting on entrepreneurship. So, as the host of the panel, I'll try to take up too much time. And by the way, if you're out there, Donnie, just remind me of when all that's going to take place, and I'll let our viewers know it as well, those who might want to see it. Oh, we've got Tim Polk. Tim Polk is watching. Tim Polk is in the house. Timothy Polk. That's Tim Possible. I just love that name. Tim, what Tim does is tremendous in home remodeling, home renovation. It is not impossible. It is Tim possible. It is something that can be accomplished, and it is on the side of his trucks. And if you have any kind of need, he's the guy that you might want to call if you're, and get his, thoughts on what you might have, if you can get that done. So all of you out there, don't take that name, because I like it. Tim Possible. He came up with that, and that is fantastic for all you guys out there named Tim. Tim's got it here. Timothy Polk. So Tim, glad to have you on board. Glad to see you. One of the things. Oh, and Tim, one of our common friends, is going to be on the show probably next week. Dr. Roger Blackwell is going to be on the show. Dr. Blackwell, yesterday, when I did the show in the evening, I did the show Chapman Means Business, and I talked about strategic marketing. But one of the smartest guys, one of the deans of the market strategy, is Dr. Robert Blackwell. And he has written several books on marketing, some textbooks that are actually taught in school, that are used as the basis of courses. He is a former professor at Ohio State, and Dr. Blackwell is out of Ohio. And if you go to Ohio State University, he's actually got a building with his name on it, and he's kind of a professor emeritus out there. So I'm looking forward to having Roger next week at some point to kind of talk a little bit about marketing, how one does it, how one can focus on making sure they understand what they're going after, because that's just so important. First you got to understand who your customer is, who the person is, and you got to have a kind of a profile of who that person is. And once you have that profile, then that kind of affects your marketing. Roger, I'm sure, will talk about that. We've got some other people who are lined up as well. But if anything falls through, then, what you have is the pleasure of hearing me and my opinions for about 3 hours, which I'm hoping it won't just be that. Come in with me. Come. Did you guys see the picture I posted when I did the oyster roast? That's what I was doing. I love the oyster roast, the Rotary oyster roast. And some of you may belong to the Rotary in different parts of where you are in the world, because the Rotary is an international organization. And each year here in Baltimore, where I'm broadcasting from, the Baltimore Rotary does an oyster roast, which is a major charity fundraiser. From those funds, they give away money to various charities. So if you look at the picture that I posted, and I may just post that picture again, you will see me working the wheel. There's the wheel. It spins around. If it lands on some numbers, well, if you got your money on those numbers, well, you win more money. And I do what's called the Barker, which I like doing. And I'm on a couple of places. Donnie, I think, put me on his website. He's got a live of me actually doing my thing. And the Sun Papers here locally took a picture of me, along with 2 very nice women who were working the table as well. But I'm doing what we call doing the barking. I've got the mic, and I want to say, you, come on, put your money down, and spin the wheel, spin. Let's make you a winner. And so that's what I'm doing right now. I'm going to balk, doing the barking, the barking, the BARKER, the barker. Okay. So I'm going to get you. Come on in. Give me a comment. Come on in. Click on that link that's on the web, that's on the Facebook page. Come on into this. This broadcast and join us on Mornings with Nate. So that's just a little bit of it. Actually, I was a lot more animated, if you can believe that. It's a wonder the day after that I have any voice whatsoever, because it's just nonstop doing that, spinning the wheel and so on. So there's a very nice picture. If you look at the and I think also on the Nathan Chapman page, it shows up there of me actually doing that. Some of you were kind enough to kind of like the page and share the page, and I really appreciate that as well. And I should mention this Friday, we've got a new broadcast called Money Masters with Nate Chapman. As many of you know, my background is in the investment management business, investment banking business, and so on. So I know a lot of people in that industry. And the chief of the investment committee of TIAA-CREF, one of the largest insurance companies in the United States, and the chief of the investment committee for that entity is a guy by the name of Maceo Sloan. And Maceo will be on the broadcast, and I'm really looking forward to having a chance to talk to him. He and I haven't talked investments in a long time, and just hearing his point of view as to what the market is doing. The market's had some pullbacks. What his thoughts are just overall, because he's a very knowledgeable person. We've got a couple other shows that we're going to be launching next week, Lord willing, and you're going to be hearing more about those as well. And then also you'll be hearing more as we move into the political season. We're going to be doing some stuff with the politicians and so on to kind of get it out there, get their word out there for the people using this format. So you'll see some more about that. And we're going to be hitting the road ourselves, broadcasting from remote locations. Today, this is Baltimore, but tomorrow it could be anywhere. I could be right in your community. And so I'd love to meet with some of you after the broadcast. Maybe we could arrange to meet at the Chick-fil-A, or and I'm just joking, it won't be Chick-fil-A, but somewhere, and just get to know each other on a personal level and just kind of shake hands. And so I can meet the folks that many of you are friend of me and some who join the broadcast. So I'd love to do that. So you can look forward to seeing me do that. Now, in this last hour, I want to kind of just retrench a little bit and kind of go into some of the stories that we talked about a little earlier, and see if I can get some of you who are just joining the broadcast to kind of get your thoughts on it. Kind of the number one story that I talked about is that Trump has indicated his willingness to speak under oath to Mueller. And I just don't think that's a good idea. And not if you don't have to, from Trump's perspective. That if you have to, if there's some reason hold on one second. I'm getting, yes. Yes, I'm here. No, here, we're still rolling. Because it's certainly on my phone, but okay, thanks. Now you say, whoa, Nate, you just took a phone call right in the middle of the broadcast. That's because that's one of my guys. He was basically saying, well, Nate, he had tried to get me. He's one of the guys that gets me every day. And he is saying that he was having a tough time getting me. So from my perspective, when he calls, I'm thinking, oh, no. We've got Crystal McNath is watching. I don't know if I mentioned that. Amanda West. Okay, I'll go back in that. So what I'm seeing when that guy calls, that's why I take the phone call, because that's like my right hand. And he may be saying, well, Nate, you're not getting out there. And for me, what I see here, I see myself kind of getting out there per se. But hey, you guys, you can tell me. I see Tim and others who say they're watching. And, I'm just going to check here because, for him to call me in the middle of the old broadcast, makes me want to make sure I'm doing it and that things are going okay. So, okay, I definitely see myself here. And let me just, for those of you, because, he kind of worries me that maybe we may not be in all places we want to be. So I'm going to check that right now. Nope. Mr. Earl. Okay. Now, what I did see, we picked up a couple more comments. But Burst Tina Pick says, that's commendable. Keep it up. And it says here, Tim Pope is watching. I've got that. Now, okay. All righty. It appears that everything is okay there. And let us see here. Nathan Chapman is live right now. So if you all forgive me, I'm going to just make sure that we are indeed doing our thing. See, this is a part of it. When you're both the talent and the producer, this is what you do. You just have to check. Now, you guys understand. You guys already know the answer. Either you're seeing me or you're not. So I'm just kind of checking to see, to make sure that we are doing our thing. Okay. Yep. That appears to be the case. Mr. Earl. Yep, the We is live, and that it is cooking. And give me some comments. You guys got anything out there? Okay. Say Nate. Okay. Got Annette Phillips. Blessings. Well, thank you, Annette, for joining the broadcast. Thank you very much. And I am going to go back to where I was and continue to do our thing. All right. All right. Great. All right, Mr. Earl. Well, unless you can tell me otherwise, I hope you were able to pick me up because that was like my second in command there. And he's like, "Oh, Nate, I can't get you. Are you down? Are you all right?" And when he calls me, because he knows he's up at 6 with me. He's up when the broadcast starts at 6. I'm up even before. But he says, "Oh, Nate, you may not be out." Yeah, he would not call me during the broadcast unless it was like 911. You may not be broadcasting. But just from what I can see, unless you guys tell me otherwise, it looks like things are okay. So just to get back, we're just talking a little bit about Trump and saying that he's willing to speak to Miller under oath. I just don't think it's a good idea, unless you have to, because there's no upside to it. If you make a mistake, they're going to kind of jump on you about that. And when they jump on you, it's going to be more than just simply embarrassing. You make a mistake where you're not totally accurate with Mueller or the FBI, well, that's a crime. And it could set up a constitutional crisis. The whole question of whether or not the president can actually commit a crime, because he's like the chief law enforcement person. And other things, that's why he can't be sued on personal matters while he's in office and stuff like that. So it will bring up some issues. But I just simply don't think it's a good idea unless he has to speak to Mueller. And I would not hold it against him, because I'm sure his lawyers are saying that, no, we don't want you talking to him. There's no upside. He's trying to investigate you. He's not trying to exonerate you. He's trying to figure out if there is the basis to prosecute you. And if there isn't, then he just says, okay, there's not enough evidence to prosecute. He's not going to turn around and say, and yeah, Trump, you are a great guy and nice person to all. That is not what he's going to do. So maybe he ought to just, if he has to, you have to. But if you don't have to, perhaps you should just leave that alone and not talk so much about it. Maybe it's the reporters pushing him, Mr. Trump, are you going to testify if Mueller calls you? And he's not. He's trying to answer the question. Yes, I have nothing to hide, and this, that, and the other. Well, Still not a good idea. What do you guys think? I'm not trying to say you should avoid dealing with law enforcement officers or talking to law enforcement officers. I don't believe that. But I also don't believe you should expose yourself to jeopardy unnecessarily. So if it's not necessary for him to talk to him, I don't think he should. But that's just me because I just have a little history out there, and I've been seen it many times. Whole people end up with their people who. And isn't that what happened to Oliver North? Not Oliver North, but the Scooter Libby. I mean, Scooter Libby, he spoke to the FBI, and when they were investigating Scooter Libby regarding whatever they thought he did, they exonerated him on that. But then he said some things that were inaccurate to the FBI, and they got him for obstruction of justice. So the very thing they were investigating him for, they exonerated him. But obstruction of justice is what he was ultimately sentenced for lying to the FBI, and that is what he ultimately had to, he was convicted of. So that is why I say what I say, because you can end up with a crime that you didn't have before you started talking to them. And sometimes people, they speak to these officials and they try to be brave, they try to be funny and crack jokes. It's just a very serious matter, and so you shouldn't do that. If you have to talk to them, you definitely should. If you don't, you probably should avoid it if you can. So that's my thought. Any of you out there, any of you have thoughts on this, I certainly would be happy to talk to you about it. Click on the link that's on the page, the We page. Some of you are on the Nate Chapman page, and that's fine. But what I want you to do is to go up in the Facebook search bar and put in the We 123, and that'll bring you to the We page. And at the top of that page, because what happens, the way it works in the old live streaming world, in the Facebook world, I put it on the business page, the We page, because I can pin it to the top of the page. You cannot pin something on a personal page. My Nathan Chapman page is a personal page. What happens is I can put it on the page, but the second I get anyone else who's posting, it just knocks it further down. So you just would not necessarily see it. But on the We page, the business page, there's the option, for those of you who don't know it, to pin it to the top of the page. And so there on the top of any of my posts, I can pin this link in the little place that says there is the link, and then you can click on that, and then you can join the broadcast, or you can text me, or whatever you would like to do. So that is, I see Tim, he says that's true. He's agreeing with me, I think, on the whole comments about, if you got to talk to the federal agencies, do it, because it's the law. But if you don't, you shouldn't go, hey, I'm just going to talk to you anyway. I'm innocent. I have nothing to hide. You can't do anything to me. That's a bad way to think about it, because they can ask you some question in a certain kind of way. And the whole thing of, well, I don't recall. Even that can be turned into something that looks like obstruction of justice. You don't recall. But you recall what you're trying to do is obstruct justice. You don't want to tell the truth. I asked you a question. And as a law enforcement officer of the United States of America, I expect you to answer. And that you don't recall is not a sufficient answer. It is not sufficient an answer. But it does rise to the fact that you're trying to obstruct justice. I mean, it's so much. Oh, we have here Derek Burnett. I see Derek saying, good morning, Nate. He's got the show that I mentioned to you that's going to be coming on 7, Culturally Conscious Narrative. He's going to have George Mitchell. George Mitchell is he's a local guy, and he's thought to be the mayor of Park Heights. I guess that's kind of an honorary title. Because Park Heights is not a city, it's like a street, but it's an area. But he is the mayor of it. Well, Derek, I thought you were like the mayor. You're like the mayor of Lockern or something. But if you make sure you catch that show, it's going to be on the We channel, and he is, and Derek has a number of guests that are very interesting that are going to be coming on board and talking about some of the culturally conscious issues that Derek is very, very concerned about, and that I'm sure that many of you will find interesting. So thank you, Derek. It's good to know. And the other thing that we talked a little bit about is, and I spent some time on, just kind of coming around to some of you folks who weren't in the first broadcast, is this whole issue of what's happening. We've got Alfred Chapman. How you doing, Alfred? Welcome to the broadcast. This whole issue of what's happening over in Davos, that apparently that some of these countries that Trump referred to as S-hole countries, they're going to walk out when he starts to speak. And I thought that was very interesting. And that they are going to use this as a media opportunity in the same way that the vice president used it as a media opportunity when he came to that football game, knowing full well those players were going to take a knee. And instead of just not coming to the game, saying, I don't want to come to any game where players are taking a knee against the flag, he created the media opportunity because they've always taken a knee at every game. They took a knee, so they were going to take a knee at that game as well. But when they did, he looked shocked and disgusted, and he walked out with his family and the Secret Service team. I think the people over at Davos are doing pretty much the same thing. And Trump's going to speak. If you don't want to hear what he has to say, you just don't show up. I'm not going to go to the speech and, I don't want to hear what he has to say. I'm not going. But if you want to create a media opportunity, if you're a small country and you say, well, this is a way for me to get in front of the world media, then you show up. And when he starts to speak, you get up, I'm not interested, and walk out the door and then run to the podium, where CNN or someone else happens to be and say, look, yes, indeed, I walked out. I want to tell you that my small country, and this is, get your moment in the media. And I happen to think there are going to be quite a few. There'll probably be a line of folks who, the media, would they do it if they didn't think they could get the media? I don't think so. I think that if there was no media involved, they'd probably, they may not just show up in the first place if they don't like the fact that, like, for instance, he particularly called out Haiti and parts of Africa that just don't show up. The man called me out. He said, can you imagine if it was your home? And when I say that, I mean like your literal house. And someone said, whoever, I don't like people living at 1223 Front Street, that S-hole place at 1223 Front Street. Instead of calling that whole country, they just call out your house. And you knew that person was speaking. And he called out your house and called it the S-hole place. Well, chances are you wouldn't go here and speak. You talk about my house and you talked about it in such a negative light. I'm just simply not going to go hear you speak unless you wanted the media piece. And I think that is exactly what's happening over in Davos right now. I think it's complicated by the fact, and we talked a little bit about this, of the fact that the president's wife is not accompanying him. Many have suggested that she's not accompanying him because the news came out about Trump having the affair, which at first I didn't know. I just thought he kind of slept with a porn star. And you can think what you want about that. But the truth of the matter, of what they are saying, is that he slept with the porn star during the time he was married to this woman. And so she's kind of upset about that the news has broken that actually happened. And if it happened before they were together, she may not be as upset. And so he paid the porn star $140,000, some number like that, to stay quiet about it. But it happened during their marriage. And that now they're saying that that's why she did not accompany him on the trip when originally she was planning to accompany him. I think that's kind of bad. First, I think it's bad from the point of view that she probably could have helped with some of these smaller countries. I am not in any way, shape, or form dogging out Trump, and I don't have anything to say about it from a point of view of being critical. I'm not saying I'm better than him. I'm not casting the first stone or anything like that, against, what he did or anything like that. But I just, calling out the facts of it and saying that I can kind of, see why this could be kind of bad. It's got a double hit. But I guess Trump takes so many hits, it's kind of hard to figure out what the hit is going to be. We got another comment from Derek just talking about the show tonight. Discussions on the opening and activities of the Business and Community Center in the former Langston Hughes Middle School. He's going to talk a little bit about that tonight at 7. But On one hand, you got the people over in Davos who are upset about that SO comment, who plan to make this big media thing about it, who are going to walk out when you start speaking, and you have to deal with that. On the other hand, you got your wife who's upset with you because you slept with this porn star during the time you were married. You tried to pay her off, and you made me look bad because I'm a supermodel. People pay me to take my picture. You got me, and yet you feel like you got to go the porn star route. And then lastly, the porn star herself, who's going to come out and say whatever she's going to say about Trump. I kind of wonder how deep she's going to go in on Trump. Because as I said, when Rubio was going through the debates, when they were debating the Republican Party debates, and Rubio said one of the things that really surprised him about Donald Trump is not just the orange makeup that he had at that time that he was putting on in the back room before they came on, but that when he shook his hands, how small Donald Trump's hands were. Now, Rubio is not a big guy himself. Rubio is not a tall guy, at least. And for a guy who's kind of smaller in stature, to shake your hand of a guy, Rubio, what's Rubio? Rubio is maybe 5'9", 5'8", something like that, if that. And Donald Trump's like 6'2", 6'3". And Rubio is remarking that when he shook Donald Trump's hand, that Donald Trump's hand was kind of on the small side, implying that small hands may be small other organs. Now, we also got Monica. Let me make sure I get that correct. Monica Bethel Chapman is out there. Monica, welcome to the broadcast. And so, implying that with small hands, small other parts of the body. Now, the reason I mention all that is that, of course, his wife would never say anything about that, but a porn star might. So who knows what she might come out and say about Donald Trump, because when Rubio said it, look at my hands. He was a broadcast. Look at my hands. I've got big hands and so on. I've got huge hands, huge, hands, huge, kind of putting it out there. But Rubio's like, man, I'm kind of a small guy. And when I shake his hand, it's like I put a gorilla on a kitten. It's just his hands are so small, and if his hands are small, it just makes me, wonder what can I say. But what is he going to say when a porn star comes out? I mean, maybe the porn star is going to come out and say something totally different. Maybe she's going to say Donald Trump is much man, or she could say Donald Trump is not much man, because it's just we're she's a porn star, and like the Allstate commercial that I quote a lot, she probably knows a lot because she's seen a lot. That commercial, which I like, which I kind of quote myself. She knows a lot because she's seen a lot. So you got all those things kind of coming at Trump. And meanwhile, you're trying to give this speech and have people take you seriously and maybe try to get your numbers up a little bit. It's kind of rough. Well, what do you guys think? Give me some thoughts. Your thoughts on that just generally. Because many of you around the country, I know, we talk, Derek, I see you're talking about one of the local issues here. The whole thing of what's happening with people walking out, the whole thing with the issue with and the whole issue with the porn star, the whole issue with Trump, and what's come out now, and whether or not his wife is actually going to be thinking about some things. Because Matt Lauer, just to segue for a little bit, Matt Lauer's had his kind of share of blows lately. Matt Lauer's wife has kicked him out of his home in the Hamptons and is moving forward on getting a divorce. That's, because when you're down, boy, now Matt Lauer, brought it on himself, and people can make the argument, with Trump, that whatever's going on, you kind of brought that on yourself, and who knows. But again, I'm just kind of reporting the facts. I don't want to sound like I'm, throwing rocks at the man, So, but Yeah, because he's president of the United States. You know, a man makes mistakes, and so I'm not trying to justify it for you women out there. But I'd like to hear your view. If any of you have some views on that, and you think about what's happening in Davos, you think about the situation with Trump and his wife, who this porn star stuff, and because his wife just seems like a nice person. You know, yeah, she plagiarized Michelle Obama's speech when she did her own little speech. But she's been it seems like a nice enough person to me. I don't, she's married to Donald Trump. That can't be 100% easy. So, but she seems to be handling it okay. And they had the little thing on talking. She had a roommate who was talking about her and what she was like prior to Trump. And the roommate said nothing but nice things. It wasn't that she said that Mrs. Trump was this terrible person. She wasn't. She's a nice person. People who know her say she's a nice person. But so you don't want things to happen like that. To nice people. So if you've got some thoughts, some views on that situation over there in Davos, because I don't know if I'm kind of busy during the day, but at some point I probably will watch it to see. I don't watch a lot of speeches of politicians just in general. I didn't watch a lot of Obama speeches, to be honest with you, so I'm not likely to watch a lot of Trump's or anybody else's. I guess maybe because I've been in the political game so long. I'm a little jaded with these speeches, high ideals and all, and nothing happens. So I tend not to watch the speeches, but I'll be interested to know if these guys do carry out the plan, and I think they will, because the media kind of goats you on. All right, if you're gonna walk out, I want you to walk out right at the beginning, and when you come straight to this point over here, we're gonna put a little X on the floor. This is what the cameras are gonna be, a little podium. We're gonna give you about 2 minutes to say something, and once you're kind of hooked up like that, you're probably gonna go through with it. Yeah. And I think that's what happens. The media is trying to get a story. No, don't go over to Fox. Come over to CNN. If you're going to go over to Fox, go after you go to CNN, because we're going to have you first. And then you can go over to Fox and, and that's what happens. Then you go over to the British Broadcasting Corporation stuff, the BBC, and, you have your day. And many of these small countries never get attention. But today, because of Trump and because of what's happening, they're going to get some attention, and they're going to play off him. And I guess if I was Trump, and I don't think you can't be so upset. You just have to keep talking when these guys. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised if these guys are showing up like 2 hours early so we can sit in the front seat, and maybe. If Trump knows some of these people are going to walk out, some of his people might say, can we put them somewhere that we don't want them to sit right in the front? If they're going to walk out, can they walk out at least the back of the room? All those kind of maneuvers go on. Maybe Trump says, to people, I see you all walking out the back of the room when I speak. If in any way something happened, that is in any way that I said something or something was said in the media that caused you to be upset with me, I apologize. But he's not going to apologize. But that's what you do. And I'd ask you if you've got, if you were forgiving, to kind of let me have my say today, and I would be happy to meet with you or whatever. And that would kind of diffuse the thing and make him seem like the big man. But if you let those folks walk out and you're like, go ahead, leave, America first. And I don't care about what you guys say, or whatever. And then that's going to make him not popular on the world scene. So just as much as I'm interested in seeing whether these guys actually carry it through when they walk out on Trump doing his speech over in Davos, I'm interested to see how he reacts to it. Because you know how he did during the campaign. If he'd get up there and he'd talk all this stuff that seemed like he was inciting violence. He said, during the campaign, I remember the old days when we used to really know how to treat these people. They do something like that and then they end up getting beat up, or something like that, he said during the campaign. And you can't say about the world leaders. They walk out on you. You say, oh, boy, I remember the old days when I used to be able to beat up these world leaders and give some respect from them. They walk out on me, the prices of butt whooping, and that's what I'll give you. And you can't really say that to these guys. I mean, they got all the leverage. If you don't give them the United States, I guess that's the only thing. If the United States is giving them any money, then you can always cut them off. And maybe, and I'm sure that's part of the play, that if the United States is giving them any money, that you can say you can walk out if you want. Would you be walking out with your empty pockets? You come in here with some money in your pockets, but you're going to walk out without it. If you walk out this room or disrespect me, because you play some hardball with these guys. You're not gonna both walk out and get money too. One of the two is not gonna happen. So you make your choice. Yeah, I like giving you this money. I think we're helping you, but you can make another choice if you want. But it's up to you. Your fate's in your own hands. So I'm sure they're playing some hardball, talking the talk. Yeah, because as I said, I've been in the political game a long while. So these kind of tough conversations. And when I say tough, these things happen. These world leaders, somebody will sit you down and they'll say, they'll give you they'll put their hand out like this and they say, you're right here. And it's up to you what you want. You want me to squeeze you? You want me to tickle you? It's up to you. Because I got you right here. And I'm happy to do either one. But this is what I need you to do. I need you to stay in that seat. And when I get through speaking, I want to see some applause. Okay? If I see that, hey, you're getting a tickle. But if you get up out of that seat and walk out while I'm speaking, you're getting the squeeze. Okay? And it's up to you now. Right now. It's early. It's early right now. You got something to think about. Which one do you want? Which one do you logically want? I mean, you gotta, in the political game, it's something. You'd be surprised at the conversations, that you have with these people. And they really sit back and they think, oh man, I got a couple $1 million coming in, I got some money I'm pulling off that and corruption in my country. I don't want that to stop. And I got commitments. I'd like to walk out. But I sure do like that money coming in from the United States. Trump, he probably said that. He didn't really mean it. I think I'm going to take my seat. But you'll have one or two folks that you're not giving any money to who've already gone for bad in the past. And those folks are just going to walk out the room. What do you think? If you guys are out there listening and you're hearing the broadcast, what do you think out there? You think that there's going to be some guys that get up and leave, and if you think so, you think it's right that they do that? What are your thoughts on that? Yeah, come on, I want to get a comment or someone to join me on that particular point, because I don't think Trump's going to join us anytime soon, because he looks at Morning Joe. I got to convince him. Stop looking at Morning Joe in the morning as Chris Como, and come on with Mornings with Nate, and come on this show and make me famous. Because that's the game. They come on the show. Hey, Mr. Trump, they walked out on you. What do you think? And he says, and I get famous. Everybody's getting followers and so on. That's kind of the game. And sometimes I think it's just a little ping pong going back and forth between these guys. It's like, who has done me a favor? I'm going to make them famous. Let them criticize me. And then I'm going to jump on them. And even though no one's ever heard of them, I'm going to jump on them. But sometimes, people can surprise you. Did you hear what's happened at Breitbart? Apparently, because of this whole DACA thing, people are really concerned that if you were born in a foreign country, if you were born here and your parents came here illegally and they had children, you were born here, the whole DACA program is what keeps you here. But now people are saying DACA is going to end. Trump is saying he's going to end it. But then he came out the other day and he said that the DACA children don't have anything to worry about, implying that, in fact, that something's going to be done by Congress, or he's not really going to kick them out of the country. So Breitbart came out, the news service that's been so negative came out and started calling President Trump Amnesty Trump. Amnesty Don is what they call him, because he's going to give these folks amnesty to stay in the country. Amnesty Don, that's kind of something. Boy, you're used to be your friends. Well, you make one move that they don't like. You say one thing they don't like, and they come out hard. Amnesty Don, just because you said you're not going to kick these children, who the only country that they've ever known is the United States, here. Not their fault. They're here. And so. Many have just gone to school and done what children do, and you're going to kick them out of the country because their parents got here illegal. I think something should be done positive to allow them to stay in the country. What do you guys think? What do you think? Because the people at Breitbart They're now calling Trump Amnesty Don, and they're turning against him on this one issue. I'm sure other issues they'll pump him up, but on this issue, they're kind of turning against him. So what do you guys think? If you are interested in that particular subject, let me know. If you guys are thinking about something else we talked about, I would like to do that. And also, I kind of threw out there the whole stuff on Trump's health. Trump, his doctor, came back and said that he is in fantastic health. If he ate better, he'd probably live till he was about 200. And that Trump is at 239 pounds. They got him at 6'3", even though his license says 6'2". I'm thinking that at 6'3", at 239 is not obese, but at 6'2", 239 would be, which in my opinion, given my weight, I don't think it should be. But that's the way they do it on the charts. Certainly, for those of you who follow the broadcast, know that I'm in the midst of my own trying to lose weight. So I feel Trump, unlike him, I'm not out there eating the McDonald's and fried chicken, but yet I still gain weight. I kind of a guy 71 years old still out there eating chicken and fries and he's just 239. I think that's great personally, because normally if you eat that every day, the way they implied that he likes a little of that every day, that's like his predictable meal, that you probably should be 325 or 329 or something like that. But fortunately, that's not the case with him. So. And I hope he is in great health, because as much as I may disagree or agree with what he says in politics, and I want the man to be in good health and kind of see the presidency through, to be strong, because certainly we've had any number of presidents throughout history that the physicians have covered up for, and there's plenty of stories in CNN that talk about that, how these physicians, the so-called White House physicians, have come out and said, this guy, is fantastic health. Yeah, he looks a little tired and all, but he's fantastic. Like Woodrow Wilson. That's what happened with him. Woodrow Wilson had a stroke, and he was partially paralyzed. But when the doctors reported it, they said, oh, he's just a little tired, a little worn down, nothing to be worried about. And his wife and one of the Woodrow Wilson's assistants actually ran the country, because Wilson couldn't, because he was paralyzed in the stroke, but they didn't want the country to know it. And the doctors played along with it. So, all those kind of stories, the Kennedys, Roosevelt, there are any number of stories of people. I think Grover Cleveland was mentioned. Grover Cleveland, when he was president, and he was probably one of the first guys to actually have a personal physician or a presidential physician. He noticed that he had a little spot on his tongue. It turned out to be cancer. And they went away and they basically removed part of his jaw and teeth and all that. But what they reported to the newspaper is that he had some type of tooth cavity, and that they basically did some oral surgery related to that, and he was suffering as a part of that. He ultimately died, but they never came out, or at least initially, it's out now in history with the news that this guy had cancer, and we did this major surgery on him. And in fact, they did that surgery, if my memory serves me correctly. They took him out on like the presidential yacht or some military ship. So the surgeons, in the midst of the ship bobbing and weaving on the water, did this major surgery on the president of the United States' mouth, and then came back and said, "Oh no, nothing to worry about. It's just toothache. We had to take a whole cavity out, and his jaw is kind of swollen because of that. Older guy and so on," and never really came out with the truth. That we treated him for cancer because they were too concerned that this might throw the country into some kind of worry if the president was sick. They always say that. People always say that all the time. Oh, we had to make sure that no one knew Roosevelt was as bad off as he was with polio and so on, that he was a strong guy because the president's seen as strong, the country's seen as strong. Well, I guess there's a little bit of that, but we're just so much more than one man. Although one man can affect us, no doubt about it. And certainly the media has made that more so now than ever before, kind of focusing on this whole one man thing. But give me some comments. If you guys are out there, any thoughts on what I'm talking about? I'd love to hear it, and love to talk to you about it. See what's happening. Yeah. Let's see here. Okay, still going through some comments. So at the end of the day, with Trump and with others, what I've seen, because I started off this broadcast with a little picture of me back in my younger days when I was campaign treasurer for the first black mayor here in Baltimore, and that was a job that I talked about how difficult it was. I see people. I remember Mr. Earl, my second in command. He certainly was back in those days as well. I see him out there, but processing thousands of checks for a city campaign, but accompanying the mayor on all these kinds of trips. And so when I say trips, basically talking to corporate leaders and this and that. It was kind of interesting and quite frankly life-changing, and just learning the system from the inside and how things work for someone who's who's an elected official like the mayor. So I started my broadcast out with that, and I say all that because I understand a little bit about the inner workings of politics and how someone like the president's physician can be kind of right from the beginning told that whatever you find, you got to keep to yourself. Whatever you find, you got to tell the public that he's perfect, that he's fine. And that's him. And you really, you normally start off with even selecting someone who is amenable to that. Your job is is not to just examine the president. Your job is as a press secretary to tell the public that he is fine, 100%, no matter what you find. You must be willing to say that, and that's kind of part of the job. So I'd be interested though to know what you guys think about that as we deal with that, the office that you see out there of the president is such a powerful position, but it is just one part of government. And we don't really spend a lot of time because the elected officials seem so bought and paid for, in my opinion, and they're kind of on top of each other, but not because they disagree, but they got promises to keep, dollars that have been invested in their campaign and promises to keep. So they haven't been as effective lately, but also in the news, they're saying that they're tired of waiting for leadership from Trump, that the Congress is going to move on its own on immigration. We'll see. We'll see. I don't know so much about that because so many of the people who support Congress just simply don't want anything to be done, any kind of path to citizenship or anything like that. They look at other countries and they say, well, you just can't show up in Germany and stay there for a long time and become a citizen. You must go through a process, and it is a difficult process to become a citizen there. And we should do the same thing here. And so that's when you come to the country legally. And one of the things that kind of surprised me, and I mentioned it before, is that I've talked to a number of people who are Hispanic, and they are not for the whole thing of citizenship for Hispanics without there being a process. No so-called amnesty. That you've been in this country for a while, you paid taxes, stayed out of trouble. Well, we're just going to make you a citizen. We're just going to give you amnesty over coming here legally and just move forward. They're kind of, hey, we went through a process and we had to go and we had to do this, and we want everybody to have to go do this, or they should just go back where they came from. And I was kind of surprised when that was the view of certainly one of the people that I spoke to who had a little business, and I would have expected that maybe a little bit more charity, but there was just not there. Give me your view on this whole immigration issue, or any other issues that you have a strong feeling about, related certainly on a global level. I see Derek Burnett is asking my thoughts on kind of a local Baltimore issue. What are my thoughts on Dr. Dallas Dance, former Baltimore County school director, indictments? Well, I didn't know about that. I didn't know he had been indicted yet. I have to check that in the morning news, that has actually happened, that he has been indicted. I guess my first feeling about that is I just feel very sorry for him, because that whole process, once you've been indicted like that, even if you get off, even if you are successful, it's such a taint. And worse, an indictment is a criminal process. So this isn't that he's going to lose his job. He's already resigned as superintendent. It's not a civil matter where he's going to be sued and he's going to pay a bunch of money. It's a criminal matter. So he could end up in prison. and with a substantial fine. So, my first reaction is that, that he is, that I feel sorry for him. That's my initial thought on that. I guess I'll read more about that when I'm off the air to see just exactly what happened in that situation. And I'm sure you'll cover it tonight on your show. That was Derek Barnett, who runs the culturally conscious cultural network. I'm sure that Derek will talk more about that tonight. Let me make sure I said that right. Narrative. I said network. I didn't think that was right. The culturally conscious narrative. And so I'm sure he'll talk more about what happened with that situation. But it's terrible. Anybody I know who gets indicted and on the federal level, federal or state, but it's terrible what happens to your family, the tremendous amount of resources that you have to pay lawyers. And, I've got my view. There's certainly good lawyers and lawyers that are not good. They just take your money. They just don't put the work in, don't have the ability. Some have big reps, but no ability. And I certainly see that and I've experienced it personally. Lawyers have big rep and very little ability and who are just honest and good people. I've experienced that. So, and it puts a taint on all lawyers. Quite frankly, when you see something like that, although I know there are some very good ethical. I have friends. I shouldn't say that. I have friends who are very ethical attorneys, but I know and when something like that happens, and I'm talking about this indictment that just came over on the former superintendent here in Baltimore County, one of the people who was I think the youngest superintendent in history, and it's just to me a very terrible thing. Well, you all, as you hear me talk a lot about, we do a show here from approximately from 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, why don't we go to 4 hours instead of just 3 hours? Well, Facebook only allows you to talk for 3 hours straight per live broadcast, which is why we do it that way. And I like the fact that we're kind of paralleling Morning Joe in the mornings and also CNN on with Chris Como. They're basically on the air roughly about the same time from about 6 to 9 per se. And we're paralleling that time right here on the We and right here on Facebook Live. And I really thank you all for joining the broadcast, because what will happen is I get told periodically is that if I talk too long, Facebook, even though I'm still talking, Facebook abruptly, gives you the hook after after 3 hours pass. So I want to thank you all. We're going to close out Mornings with Nate. I hope you join me tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning, we'll have Adrienne Briones, who's a sex coach, to talk about how she kind of got into that business and the concerns as to why there is a business and a need for what she does. And we'll open that up for questions from you. I hope you'll look for that link tomorrow morning and just come on into the broadcast, send some text. It promises to be a very interesting show. So thank you. And have a great day. And thank you for joining Mornings with Nate. Go out there and do something special. Thank you.